If your football team had one option in their playbook, the results probably wouldn't be great. The same could be said for your investments. SIBO index options like SPX and XSP can help expand your investing strategies with cash settlement and potential tax advantages. If you're ready for a more dynamic game plan, head to betterwithoptions.com. SIBO, life is better with options. Your investments could be too. There are risks associated with SIBO company products. Review the disclosures and disclaimers at SIBO.com/US_disclaimers.
Hey, Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the Vehicle Owner's Manual for important feature limitations and information.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Didn't file with TurboTax last year? That's in the past. Now, Taxes is getting the TurboTax app and filing your own taxes for free if you didn't file with them last year. File by February 18th. All tax forms, all 100% free. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. New filers and filers who didn't use TurboTax last year only must start and file your own taxes in-app by February 18th. Excludes TurboTax Live. Full terms at TurboTax.com.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise Podcast. It's time to remember this crap about the Bears and the Broncos with Mike Donahue. Mike, how are you?
Terrific. Thanks, Andy.
Great. The beauty of Remember This Crap is we don't have to talk about the 2023 Bears. I'm not going to promise you that a lot of the teams we're going to talk about are that much better, but we don't have to. It's a respite. You don't have to. We will not be talking about the Floose or
a look
any of
back to yesteryear. The good and the bad. Somehow the bad isn't as painful as it is in the present. So even on that level, I would suggest it's fine.
The Bears and the Broncos, the navy blue and orange, and then what used to be the royal blue and orange. But now it's navy blue. How come George didn't sue the Bolins for this? This is Bear colors.
That's the only other team that even kind of comes into that sphere, color-wise.
Yeah, I mean the Browns are brown and orange.
Yeah.
Not a lot of. Is there a lot? There's not a lot of orange. Anybody else?
Are there any
orange?
black? There's no black and orange either, because when I was a kid, when I was a dumb kid, I thought the Bears were more like black and orange. You look up close. Oh, navy blue.
Yeah. Well, that was CBS's lousy color.
Right. Looking past the Johnny Morris and Bob Costas
honestly,
call.
there wasn't there's more orange now because the old Wishbone C didn't used to have orange in it. It was just white.
Well, before our time.
So the only orange was the trim on the. I sound like Pat. Was the trim on the numbers and on the sleeves and then on the pants, a little line on the pants.
Description of this evolution of the C is brought to you by Sherwin-Williams. I don't think that's Pat's sponsor. I can't remember, but.
Johnny Bench used to do Krylon, right? And then
I believe
he'd do it, and then Euchre would sit on the park bench with him and get paint all over his pants.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. They could still do that commercial. They're still alive.
They could.
I know
yeah,
Bob
Johnny still gets around, and not as much as Bob, but he was in the news recently.
I think I talked about this on probably a baseball Remember This Crap, but my mom and dad. They had friends who we called Uncle Bill and Aunt Ellie, even though they weren't really aunt and
Uncle
probably old swinger pals, mom and dads, and we didn't understand why. That's your Uncle Bill. What? No, they're very nice people, and they moved to Cincinnati. And Bill Bill was the circulation director for both Cincinnati newspapers at the same time. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, two checks.
It seemed like a conflict of interest.
He was doing it for the Inquirer, and then the Post kind of cut back, and I think they brought him in as like a consultant to help. And they're just like, hey, you just want the gig? And he didn't have to. I think they may have even like coordinated deliveries.
And he
was making good money, and he had
any. I don't know if there are any good Marty Brenneman stories, but we can get to that later.
Yeah, I know. Bill told a lot of good stories, but he's gone now. But
anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go on.
He had his first game I ever saw from a luxury box was at Riverfront Stadium because we were in either the Post or the Inquirer's box watching Cubs Reds.
Is that right?
Yeah, with a young Eric Davis, who Bill was like, this guy's going to be a star. My dad's like, whatever. Yeah, Bill was better scout than Dad. Anyway, he was talking about what a prick Johnny Bench was, and basically said, if you're not paying him, he's not going to talk to you.
Is that right? Yeah.
And somebody else we knew Joe Montana a little bit, and basically said, yeah, Joe won't walk across the street for less than $10,000. If Joe is speaking at something, there's a big check that's already been handed out, which is fine. I mean, if you're
Sure.
Johnny's like, fuck it, they didn't pay me shit when I was playing. I got to make it somehow.
I mean, he's got knees that probably creak like nobody's business.
I was going to make a joke about how many balls his wife could hold in her hand. He could hold 8. Remember that? He could hold 8 baseballs in his hand.
6?
6? 8? I think it was 19. He could hold 19 baseballs in his hand.
19 baseballs, right? They were mini baseballs, but
they were marbles.
19 of them.
They were baseball color.
Technically, they were
marbles.
white. They had red painted seams on them. Yeah.
I remember though when I first got XM radio, one of the cool things was you could listen to any baseball game you wanted, and you got the local. You could pick either broadcast, and all the local commercials were in it. And if you listened to a Reds game, like say there was like 30 different spots, at times during a 3-hour broadcast, like 15 of those were Johnny Bench. Like that dude would endorse anything. He didn't care. If you pay Johnny will endorse your product.
Ka-ching.
He doesn't care. There's
Johnny
Bench for asbestos.
I googled Johnny Bench 8 baseballs. Thankfully, I didn't do Johnny Bench 8 balls, but I was immediately corrected with could Johnny Bench hold 7 baseballs, and there are countless images of him holding 7 baseballs.
All right, so split the number. I thought 8, you thought 6.
Yep. Perfect. 7 baseballs. Yeah, I think he did it once. He broke that out on an episode of the Baseball Bunch. If I remember correctly.
All right, well, good job. That's all the time we have for Bears Broncos.
Johnny Bench.
Talked about Johnny Bench and Joe Montana. Great, good job, guys. The season they've been playing since 1971.
So the Broncos. I want to clarify. The Broncos. Oddly enough, are not a charter AFL franchise, or are they? Are they? I thought they might have been like a expansion, like some year between 60. Maybe no, I'm wrong about
their first season was 1960.
Oh, then I'm wrong. They are a charter franchise. Do you know who their quarterback was? I'm not even looking. I just know this.
The Broncos quarterback in 1960 was Steve
he played
DeBerg.
At Notre Dame.
Steve DeBerg.
But
no.
Steve DeBerg was the backup, of course. Steve DeBerg was always the backup quarterback. He played at Notre Dame.
Johnny
Ladner. He is not. No. Johnny Ladner, whom I've met and shook his hand. My dad has a hilarious Johnny Ladner story that he used to like to tell. No, this person is not famous at all. Really,
Roman Gabriel
that we would know would be no. Roman Gabriel didn't go to ND.
I don't know.
Not Paul Hornung, who of course played for the Packers, but this player,
Broncos.
would not really
would have played for the Broncos. They didn't have a big enough helmet for him.
Did not. No, right. That was this person. To my knowledge, was not really famous. He must have been well known at the time. He played for Notre Dame, but his son was actually way more famous as a Notre Dame basketball player.
Oh, it's David Rivers' dad.
David Rivers
Leon.
Sr. No,
Leon Rivers.
no.
Isn't that
From
a blues
Jersey
singer?
City, New Jersey. Eddie, you're a year behind me, but I know you grew up a Notre Dame football fan. I'm sure you're a basketball
it's Frank
fan.
Tripucka.
Yes.
Ha ha! I don't know why I didn't think of that. Hey, I knew
First
Frank
round draft
Tripucka
pick.
was a football player. Yeah.
I remember I love Kelly because that was my entry into college
Kelly-
hoops when I was like
what
8
a-
years old.
what
We
a
were
club.
Notre Dame fans. Orlando Woolridge, Kelly Tripucka, John Paxson, and Tracy Jackson, who was a second round pick of the Celtics. And Paxson was a couple years behind him, but that team lost. And also Joe Klein was a freshman before he transferred out to Arkansas. But that team had their dreams crushed when Danny Ainge dribbled baseline to baseline and the NCAA and upset them. That was Kelly Tripucka's last Notre Dame game. First round pick, had a decent career at the Pistons. Later got traded for Adrian Dantley when they got better.
That was very controversial because Danny Ainge was hopped up on coffee, and as you know, that's very the Mormons. During the timeout, they slipped him some coffee, and he took off like Robbie Benson and Fast Break on the amphetamines, and woo!
Love that movie. And the other thing I learned about Frank Tripucka in the last 10 years or 12 years, whenever it was that Peyton Manning, got everyone's attention when he signed with John Elway's Denver Broncos, was that he got Frank Tripucka's number apparently had been retired. And so happened to be the same number that Manning had grown so accustomed to. So Frank Tripucka, at least at the time that Manning became a Bronco, was alive to give his blessing to unretire his number. So there you go.
That's did they have to exhume him to get permission.
They may have. It's sort of like,
all right, we're going to dig him up, and we're going to ask him, and if he objects, Peyton, no deal.
They got Kelly's approval.
Is he saying anything?
Yeah.
No? All right.
He was the power of attorney. But anyway, so that's all I know about the ancient Broncos. I don't even know if they were any of those bullshit, pinball game AFL championships, but
do you know who their first coach was?
Would it be somebody that I would name that I would recognize?
I don't think so. Have you ever heard of Frank Filchak?
No.
He went 7-20 and 1 in his 2 seasons. Then he was replaced by very famous. This guy was the AFL Coach of the Year in 1962. Of course, the great Jack Faulkner, who wrote a lot of great books. Oh,
The Sound and the Fury.
That's the wrong Faulkner. Then a guy that I have heard his name, but I don't know why. Max Speedy. He coached him from 64 to 66. Now, in 1966, here's a guy you know because we've talked about. The great Ray Malavasi.
Oh, Ray Malavasi, the future Rams coach who led them to a Super Bowl and looked like what's his name? Mel from Mel's Diner. Why can't I think of his name? Vic Tayback. Thank you for the Vic Tayback callback.
Yeah, he coached 1 year. They went 4-8, and Ray got the boot. And then here's a guy that I actually knew a guy who played for him. Lou Saban coached the Broncos for 5 seasons. And
Before the Bills?
Anyway, right?
It must have been. I think because I knew Lou Saban.
Cut his teeth.
No relation to Nick.
From good old Brookfield, Illinois. Lou Saban.
No, you're kidding. I didn't know that.
No, he was born there. Born in Brookfield. Died in Myrtle Beach. But yeah, I knew a guy, Bill Zavadil, who coached at the college I worked at and coached at Rockford Auburn. Had played for the Bills, and he played for Lou. And he would constantly have to correct all the players that Lou was not Nick Saban's dad. Everybody's like, oh, Nick's dad? Like, no. He's like, more than one guy can have the same name. It doesn't mean he automatically you're his kid. Yeah, he coached the Broncos, and then he left there to go to the Bills. He coached right after 1972.
Okay, kind of an old AFL.
So Lou Saban
AFC
was the coach the first time that the Bears and the Broncos did battle. It was his final season.
Year?
Probably the reason that he quit. 1971.
Was it in Soldier Field? Because that might have really just depressed him.
Ooh, a barn burner. No, this was played wherever let's look this up. Wherever the Broncos played. The Broncos won 6-3.
Oh, barn burner.
Sounds
71. Bears are bad, of course.
Could very well be
real dark age.
On Sunday. Let's see, 1971. Let's check this wonderfulness out.
Bears were actually 6-8 in 71. So maybe I was a little harsh on them. I always think about anything between like 63 and 84 or 63 and 77 is a dark age.
One of the nice touches on Pro Football References when you click back to like 1971, the Bears logo, it's the C, no orange in it. Because like, didn't have the orange yet, so we're not putting that in there.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Denver Broncos. I appreciate that attention to
it
detail.
was week 12 of a 14-game season. Bears were 6-5 going in, and then they lost.
Bears were alive. Maybe. Although there's only one wild card. It was very competitive. I don't think a 6-5. I think you're maybe, what's the term they use nowadays when you're on the outside looking in the hunt?
In the hunt.
Yeah,
Were
they
the Bears in
would
the
have been
hunt?
in the hunt, but I think a lot of teams probably were. 14
Great,
games.
Bobby
Season's almost
Douglas.
over.
Bobby Douglas had a great game. I know it doesn't have his quarterback rating. I don't know what it is when you're 6 of 25 for 50 yards and 2 interceptions, and he was only sacked 9 times. Good Jesus, people think it's bad.
Jesus,
the Bears passed
Bears-
4. Just take a guess. How many yards do you think the Bears passed for? When he passed for 50 yards, got sacked 9 times. What are their net passing?
Shit. 11?
No, because Kent Nix came in red hot 1 for 6 for 13 yards. So the Bears passed for -7 yards.
Oh, so actually I was way high.
Yeah, you were
anyway,
too you were a little too pessimistic.
Right.
I mean,
I was.
they passed for -7.
No, I was a
not
little too
-11.
optimistic.
Floyd Little ran for 125 yards.
Kind of a Bronco legend for a bit. I think by 71, I don't know if the Broncos had done anything, but Little would be around a while. I noticed that the 71 Bears were 6-3 at one point. So hilarious that they just skidded.
Let's see. Who was the leading receiver? Dick Gordon.
Dick Gordon?
2 for 25. George Farmer, 2 for 22. And Bill Tucker, who also ran 8 times for 11 yards. 3 catches for 16 yards. This is typical Bears. How about this? This one I love stats. Bill Tucker caught 3 passes for 16 yards with a long of 21.
Wow.
So how many yards did he lose?
At least 1 for big time negative yardage, or 2 for modest negative yardage. Incredible. By the way, I just looked at that game, just catching up, just because I'm curious. It was Mile High Stadium, so it was around as far back as 71. I was just wondering how old Mile High
the
opened in
Broncos
60.
offense
Wow, it's an old.
Wasn't just Floyd Little. No, sir. Steve Ramsey, 8 of 16 for 81 yards and 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
Well, they said had the forward pass been invented by 1971?
What a dreadful.
Was it west of the
sounding
Rockies?
game.
You weren't allowed to throw. Still using I made a round football joke about the current Bears, and I think maybe they literally were using the round football in this one. They had Billy Masters caught a pass for -5 for them. That's good stuff. The scoring was. Do you know who was kicking for the Bears in 1971?
We mentioned Miro Roeder.
Nope.
You mentioned before.
Well,
Okay,
in this case, maybe Miro had already been. Mac Purcell.
Came up with. Oh yeah, okay, that's a name I've heard of. Titillating stuff.
He tied the game in the second quarter with a field goal, and then Jim Turner won it in the fourth. Doesn't say what time.
No relation to Aunt Virginia's.
Yeah, it was Jim. It was Clyde's little brother.
Clyde.
Jim Chihuahua Turner is much smaller.
There you go. Right. He was a safety, not a center. No.
6. Whoa! Listen to this. Actually, no. 6'2", 205. It's a beefy kicker, and that's all he did. He was not. This was not like a guy who, played a position and kicked. He kicked for 16 years.
Wow. Never heard of this guy.
He led the NFL in scoring. No, he led the NFL in field goals attempted and field goals made. Oh, how about this? For the 68 and 69 New York Jets.
So he was in
He was
Super
the
Bowl
kicker
III.
for the world champion New York Jets. He came
He
to
was
the
packing on points.
the back 9 of his career. I think literally. Yeah, the last 9 seasons were all in Denver. Went to that thin air. He was this
interesting.
The United Press International in 1969 voted him. He got the second most votes for AFL Offensive Player of the Year. The kicker.
Wow.
The only guy who got more votes than him, who got a lot more, was Daryl LaMonica.
Oh, not speaking of Notre Dame quarterbacks.
Who was actually who I was thinking of when I said, who did I say?
You mentioned a guy that wasn't a Notre Dame quarterback.
That's all I remember.
He's pretty. He came out with Johnny Latner, at least. That was accurate.
Oh, Johnny Latner. All right. That's 1971. A lot of fun. 2 years later, the Bears.
Just 2?
The Bears still had to go to Mile High. Yep, 1973. And the Bears would get their revenge. And boy, did they. As I pull up the stats, I could have read the score, but I already changed the thing. This is finely tuned here. I'll give you the score while I look it up. 33-14. They weren't messing around.
Pathetic. Mike Garrett, maybe? I only know this because last week we mined some awful Gibran era game against the Chiefs. So I would say Mike Garrett was the leading rusher. It's pre-Avellini, so like I don't know, Gary Huff maybe, or who would be the quarterback?
73 Bears. This was their first win of the year, of 3 total. And Miro Roeder kicking for the Bears, and Mac Percival. We got a kicker. We got a kicker controversy. They both made field goals in the first quarter. How about that?
It's like what
Abe Gibran.
While Tom Landry
Genius.
is like shuffling in Craig Morton and Roger Staubach on the same drives. Here we've got Abe Gibran, the genius, the rotund genius, doing the same thing but with place kickers.
Quarterback was still the great Bobby Douglas. Had a little better game. 8 of 21, 130, 2 touchdowns passing. Only got sacked 1 time for 7 yards. So the protection was better. Ran 10 times for 28 yards.
Okay.
And a long of 16. So nine carries for 12 yards. Other than that, Jim Harrison was the leading rusher for the Bears. 18 for 98 and a touchdown.
I never even heard of
Carl
him.
Garrett.
So what?
13 of 46
Carl Garrett?
for 46.
Okay,
Carl Garrett.
sorry. I think he was Mike Garrett's brother. I think he both went to USC. I could be wrong.
Was he on Hill Street Blues too?
I don't know. I mean, they had 2 football players. Was Mike Garrett on Hill Street Blues like a regular, or I guess they're a cameo?
No.
Ed Marinaro, we've talked about him. He was a regular. I don't know how Ed Marinaro came up in a past episode, but he did. We mentioned the Hill Street Blues reference.
Mike Garrett played Officer Mike Perez in 21 episodes.
He was a regular character?
In fact, how about this? He actually such a good. No, that's wrong. I was reading this. So Garrett Morris played a derelict in 3 episodes.
No kidding.
And he just yelled like this the whole time. He did a derelict for the hard of hearing.
Captioning. Yes.
And then he also played Chico Escuela, of course, was in an episode of Hill Street Blues.
That's right.
Ed Kranepool stole his shower shoes. And
Sammy Sosa would later steal that entire shtick.
The quarterback for the Broncos in 1973, the great Charlie Johnson. 24 of 39, 326 yards and a touchdown through 2 picks. Got sacked 4 times. Billy Van Houston came in late and attempted 1 pass, was incomplete. Floyd Little, the Bears did a much better job. 13 for 42. They shut him down.
Was this game also at Mile High or in the decrepit Soldier Field?
No, Mile High.
Okay, so the Broncos have yet to be welcomed to Chicago at this point.
How about this? Running back for the Broncos, Otis Anderson, with 1 T.
Different Otis Anderson, yep.
Went to Purdue. And Farragut, Chicago boy.
Oh, that's funny.
But he did play 8 years
decent
in the NFL.
Career in his own
He ran
right.
for 1,400 yards in 1974.
Wow.
Ran for 1,000 yards in 1976. Who knew?
Huh. I wonder if maybe that's why the O.J. Anderson, who later would play in Super Bowl for the Giants, but make his name as a Cardinal.
I didn't know
no,
that.
he won't.
Remember Earl Thomas, safety from the Seahawks on the Legion of Boom? He played in 1973. He played wide receiver for the Bears.
And there's another Earl Thomas.
How old is Earl Thomas?
Incredible.
Good Lord. The Abe Gibran Bears won that game, and then they wouldn't win again until week 7 when they beat the Houston Oilers. Did they beat an NFC team? The Packers. 31-17.
Packers suck, actually, then, for sure.
Oh, Abe.
Packers were about 4 years into a 20-year dark age.
3 years later, December 12th, 1976, the Broncos finally visited the beautiful lakefront to play in Soldiers Field. And
76. So we got Wally.
The Broncos beat the Bears 28-14.
Not a very good Bears team, I know. At least I know by the end of the year, but they were on the rise.
7-7.
And actually, the Broncos, by then, I'll tell you, were 1 year away from what I think would be their first ever playoff appearance, but they would go all the way to the Super Bowl.
This was the season finale. The Bears The Bears could have had a winning season. Could have been 8-6. But the Broncos spoil it.
The next year, the Bears would break what is still their longest drought in playoff in franchise history when they made the playoffs, and they would lose to the same team that they got thrashed. I should say by the same team that would also thrash the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl the following year. There in '77.
Let's see. Bears had a 14-0 lead at halftime. They had scored on an Allen Ellis 22-yard interception return. Bob Thomas made the extra point. Mm-hmm. Then Walter had a 21-yard rush. Bob Thomas made the extra point. And then the Broncos, 4 unanswered touchdowns. Norris Wees threw a touchdown pass to John Keyworth. Then Rick Upchurch had a 19-yard touchdown rush. Otis with 1 T. Armstrong. Oh, it's Otis Armstrong. I know it's Anderson. That's why. I can't read.
Okay.
And Riley Odom's 12-yard.
I do remember Rick Upchurch. He was a big punt returner, too, I want to say.
Bears were 8-point favorites.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
What was the Broncos' record? Broncos were 8-5 coming in.
Yeah, they were finally.
Jimmy the Greek. 8. They give that Bears are worth 8 points. No wonder he died in shambles. Excellent day. Bob Avellini. I would have loved this as a kid. I had just turned
3, 4.
4. So I'm sure I'm watching the game. Bob lit it up. This might be the best game he ever played. We should go to Canton and see if they have highlights of this. Bob Avellini completed 2 of 17 passes for 64 yards and 2 interceptions. 2 for 17. Was he throwing 15. Overhand?
Wait, was that game in Mile High?
No. This is, I'm sure it was bluster. Let's see. I think the weather's on here.
What's the last game of the year? It's 76, in the bicentennial year.
23 degrees, wind at 13 miles an hour.
Yeah, not pleasant.
Wind chill of 11.
And
it's not like it was a 40-mile-an-hour wind, Bob. It was 13 miles an hour.
Come on, Bob, suck it up.
2 for 17. Jesus.
Bob would redeem himself when he and Walter would lead the Bears the playoffs the next year, like I said, breaking their longest drought ever. I think it's shameful.
Weather did not bother Norris Wees. Norris, 7 of 22 for 98 yards.
Can you spell Wees? How does he spell
Weese?
No Weiss. H? Okay.
Like Reese Weiss.
Basically what was Sherman Hemsley's wife in the Jeffersons.
Good old
Weezy.
Good old Weezy. Does it have a pronunciation on here? No. I'm going to guess it's Weiss. Norris Lee Weiss. Went to Ole Miss from Chalmette, Louisiana, right? Not Chalmette, Chalmette, I would guess.
Yeah.
He died at just 43 years old of probably emphysema. Don't you think?
Wheeze.
It turns out his name was actually Smith. He was just wheezing so much that they thought what is his name? My name's Norris. Is his name Wheeze? Just write it down. It's like going to Ole Miss was like Ellis Island. Whatever they wrote on your admissions paper, that was your name.
Wait until we find out.
Do not try to change that name. You'll get deported.
Wait until we find out that is all literally true, and we're horrible people because he suffered from asthma his entire life.
He died 40 years ago. It's funny now. Statute of limitations is out.
He was in fact nicknamed Weezy.
Still funny.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great game. 2 years later, what's going on with the scheduling here?
I think because they played a last place schedule. No, because again, it's either because both teams played a
77.
No,
the Bears
it's 76
team.
Right, and the Broncos went to the Super Bowl. They both lost the same game. But in 76, they may have both been playing a last place schedule. Also, 78 was
rotation. Is that what you're saying?
78 is where the first year they went from 14 to 16 teams, and I don't know if that had any kind of a shift because they had the Seahawks. And the Bucks, like for 1 year, the Bucks were in the AFC and something, and then by 78 the dust had settled. So it might have been a little bit of a ground shift that they would play 2 years, but it's also otherwise it would be because they both played a last place schedule in 76. And this was on Monday Night Football, I believe, because now I'm starting to come into focus because I'm still
sure like Pete Rozelle wasn't just pulling the schedule out of his ass. Just whatever he wanted.
Well, no, because they couldn't. The Bears
let's have the blue and orange
playoffs.
teams play. That'll look good on TV.
Hey, let's talk about context. You know how like people are supposed to care about the Bears because they're a legacy franchise, even though half of the living population wasn't alive for 85. You know, in 1978, you know, they were definitely a lot closer to that golden era, and they'd finally gone back to the playoffs in 77. So I say yes. The Bears were on Monday Night Football, I think, 3 times in 78, and it was all kind of new because back then you were not guaranteed primetime game. You had to be good to be on Monday Night Football, or at least projected to be good. And so there's the defending AFC conference champ against the Bears that had finally returned to the playoffs. And I remember it was Monday night because even though I'm too young to really be into the Bears, I just remember my dad and my brothers were at this game, and it was like on a school night. Yeah, it's dark, and they're all the way downtown.
8 o'clock start.
Yeah, watching it on a black and white TV, like in my bedroom, in my sister's bedroom, like
the 3-3 Bears against the 4-2 Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Randy Bradshaw against Walter Payton. That's the matchup. Bradshaw was like the key member of the Orange Crush defense that Ohio State played.
Did I have it in 1978? No, I didn't. I didn't have it yet.
Poster?
When Roland Harper scored. I didn't have my 35 Andy jersey to run around the house in. This might have been the game that inspired it. Mom probably saw that and like, that's the good guy. 35. I'll write that down. I think
78 was that the season that Roland got 993 yards. The Bears nearly had 2 1,000-yard rushers. One of those seasons, Roland Harper almost ran for 1,000 yards. I was off by a yard. Damn it. But yeah, so that was the year. That was Roland's high point.
1,332 yards from scrimmage. Look at that.
Oh, catching some out of the backfield from Avellini. I think Mike Phipps had been acquired halfway through the season. That's how much faith they had in Avellini after he led them in the playoffs because he was so bad in that playoff game.
Did Roland play at Louisiana Tech with Terry Bradshaw?
Yeah, no, probably not because that Bradshaw came out in 69. I don't think Roland was that old.
Let's see, when did Roland?
Broncos won that game in 78.
Yeah, 75. So, much younger, more handsome.
He came in with Jim Finks' first class with Payton. And,
he'd been a little older. He might have gotten a background role in Gator. When Terry Bradshaw in Gator. Or Hooper. He was in Hooper.
Right, he was.
Is Hooper the one where he gets punched in the face and he takes his front tooth out?
I think is it Hooper or is it any which way?
Hooper's a good Hooper. Here we go. We should, instead of doing a Bear pod next week, I should make Prasnowski watch, because I know he's never watched it. We should make him watch Hooper, and the Mikes and I can just do a movie deep dive on Hooper. Hooper's a good movie. Hooper was actually directed by a famous stuntman. So all the stunt stuff is like, because that's the whole idea. Burt Reynolds is this stuntman who's trying to retire. And this new guy, this up-and-comer stuntman, Jan Michael Vincent, is causing all kinds of problems. And it's funny.
Wow.
Like it's a legitimately funny movie.
And so Terry Bradshaw has a cameo in it?
Yes.
I want to say Terry was also in Cannonball Run.
Yeah, he's Cannonball Run.
He had a legit acting role, not as himself, opposite Kathy Bates in Matthew McConaughey.
You see his bare ass. It's Kate Hudson and Michael McConaughey. It's like how to lose I don't know.
Oh, that.
Well, let's look it up. Oh no, Failure to Launch. You're right. Where McConaughey's still living in the house.
Can't move out of the house. Yeah. So Terry Bradshaw, by the way, is in the process in 78 of winning his third of 4 Super Bowls. 9 years after the Bears just misdrafting him. You're trying to pull up Terry Bradshaw's IMDb.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw's IMDb. It's hard because he's been in so much. Let's go backwards here, can we?
That's true. You may have to set the views per page to 100.
If you're gonna make a movie about terrorists blowing up a blimp at the Super Bowl, Terry Bradshaw's gonna be in it. Black Sunday. That was his first movie. Uncredited. Player, so I guarantee you, it's just footage of him actually playing. Don't you think?
Just like it. Well, if there is also that Heaven Can Wait. There's footage of Bradshaw playing. Yeah. I guarantee it. I know there is.
It is. It's from the Super Bowl.
Correct. We
in the
talked.
Rose Bowl.
I think we've not only talked about Heaven Can Wait, and it's
should do Heaven Can Wait. Movie deep dive. That's all. The Bears were so bad.
About Hooper.
Just going to do football adjacent movies instead. His first acting credit was as Sherman in Hooper in 1978.
Okay.
So this year, is this the? Yes. Oh, see, it ties in perfectly. Like, why are they talking about Terry Bradshaw in the Bears? Because 1978, we're talking about that, and there's Terry Bradshaw. He's in Hooper. He played Terry Bradshaw in Smokey and the Bandit 2. He played Terry, much different, but he just played Terry, not Terry Bradshaw. He's playing guy named Terry in The Cannonball Run. I didn't know it was like Ohio State. It's The Cannonball Run.
Right. Yes.
He played,
I don't know if did those 7-Eleven Big Gulp cups have the. They must have. Okay, go on.
So that was 1981. In 1985, he made his small screen debut as Lester Smith in Hardcastle and McCormick.
Oh, I remember Hardcastle.
I love the car. That was like the cool. Like they had the coolest car. I don't even know what car
they had
it was.
some sci-fi shit, if I remember. Remember correctly. All right, so I'm going to throw out a movie nugget that's not Terry Bradshaw related, since you said football adjacent. North Dallas 40 that may have come out in 1978. Did you know the author of North Dallas 40? His name is Peter Gent.
Yeah.
And he played NFL football. He also went to Michigan State and he played basketball, but not football. But he played for the Cowboys in the NFL.
Oh, kind of like Antonio Gates, right?
Antonio Gates did not play college football, only basketball.
I think he did.
What about
he played basketball at Kent State, right?
I know Gonzalez bobbled a pass. And by the way, I accidentally said that Gonzalez went to UCLA after you'd said correctly that he went to California. But he drop a pass in the first round of the NCAA tournament, I want to say, Anthony Gonzalez. But I'm sure he played football in college also.
Antonio Gates did not play football in college.
Wow.
How about this? He originally enrolled at Michigan State. That's where his kid played basketball, Antonio Gates Jr. To play football under then coach, not Lou Saban's son, just Nick Saban.
Oh, just Nick Saban.
And to play basketball for Tom Izzo. Upon enrolling, he learned that Saban wanted him to only play football. So Antonio said, fuck you. And he transferred to Eastern Michigan. I thought he went to... Oh, he did. He played there as part of a season before transferring to the College of the Sequoias, as one does, and then finally to Kent State University, and that's where he played basketball. 2 years as a power forward, 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists. And then college basketball scouts told him that he was too much of a tweener to play in the NBA, so Gates arranged a workout with NFL scouts. Despite having never played in college football, 19 teams were believed to have contacted him about a tryout. Gates worked out for the Chargers, and they signed him as an undrafted free agent. They signed a Hall of Fame tight end as an undrafted
that's a
free
great
agent.
Story.
He worked out for the Bears, but he got bit by a spider. And no, that's Kurt Warner. The Bears tried to sign him. They wanted him to punt. I don't know. It's the Bears.
I couldn't believe that. Oh, that's
All
great.
right.
That's a great story. Good for Antonio Gates. But let's get up to the 80s, I guess. Not a whole lot going on with the Bears and Broncos throughout the 70s, right? Played 81? I can't...
Let's see. The Broncos won that Monday night game 16-7. And then...
The Bears were
1981.
Skidded.
Back at Soldier Field. And, the Bears. Bears put a whooping.
Yeah.
On the Broncos
were in a dark age. It was a couple years before they ended up in Elway, but not with the number 1 pick because they traded for it. Craig Morton was their quarterback for a good while. I brought up Craig Morton a little bit ago, only in the context of him getting squeezed out of Dallas by Roger Staubach, who was a far better quarterback. But ironically, he did end up in that Super Bowl opposite Dallas for Denver's first ever Super Bowl, and they got crushed. And Morton continued to be the quarterback into our childhood. He basically handed it off to Elway. So I'm guessing Morton was the quarterback in that game in 81. Is there a young Dan Hampton maybe piling that old man into the turf?
They had 2 quarterbacks who both threw at least 23 passes in this game. Craig Morton was one of them. The other was the guy I've already mentioned. And we mentioned last in the Chiefs podcast, too.
Oh, it's Steve DeBerg?
Steve DeBerg. DeBerg was 14-26 for 190 yards. Morton 8 of 23 for 88. The Bears were down 3-0, and then boom, boom, boom. Walter Payton 19-yard pass from Vince Evans. Roland Harper 4-yard. Roland Harper owned the Broncos.
Roland.
4-yard rush, and then
Really
Gary
did.
Fensick, a nice 69-yard interception return, and who kicked the extra point?
John
Nope.
Rivetto or Bob
John
Thomas?
Rivetto.
Yeah, that's
I
the
wonder how many
81
field goals he
season. That's
missed
the
in
Jeff.
this game. 8.
He was 14 to 31. You said the other day.
0 for 1.
For his career.
He did make
0 for
5 extra points. We found out he's excellent on extra points. He was the
Yes.
anti. They should. Hey, Abe Gibran knew his shit. Neil Armstrong, if he keeps 2 kickers,
Yeah.
Rivetto kicks the extra points. Thomas kicks the field
Bob
goals.
Thomas kicks field goals.
Should have kept Abe. They'd have won a Super Bowl far earlier than they did with Ditka.
So did they face next in 83 or 84? I can't.
Well, now this 81 game, there's some interesting stuff here.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
The Bears scored 2 defensive touchdowns. Is Buddy
That's
there
it?
yet? Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Buddy's been there
Yeah.
since 78.
So this is the Gary Fensick, 69 interception run, and a 44-yard interception return by Al Harris.
Oh, young guy. Yeah, first round pick with Hampton in 79.
Vince was 10 of 20 for 118 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, they need a new quarterback.
Walter,
Eventually, Jim
19
McMahon
for
will get
62,
drafted.
didn't score a touchdown. The only rushing touchdown was Roland. He was 15 for 48 yards. Kenny Marjoram, 3 catches for 28 yards. Ricky
good
Watts,
number
2
82.
for 42. And Brooks Williams,
way out.
of course, 1 for 4. Whatever the fuck that was.
Margin.
Guys who played for the Broncos in the game include Larry Canada, of course. He rushed 5 times for 17 yards. By Matt Canada's dad. Rick Upchurch, 6 for 102 yards.
Second, Rick Upchurch
Steve
has
Watson,
been around a while.
Steve Watson, the Broncos, Ken
The
Marjoram.
white receiver. Yes,
6 for
exactly.
Steve Watson was the poor man Steve Largent.
Steve Largent. Everybody had a poor man Steve Largent. Ours was Ken Marjoram. Theirs was Steve Watson.
And then one of my favorite names, Haven Moses, caught 1 for 12 yards.
I have a great name. I remember his football card. I had a Haven Moses football card.
Let's see. I thought Jeff Fisher had an interception. He just hit 3 punt returns.
Punt
for
return?
21 yards.
Yeah. He didn't play a lot of defense.
Emery Moorhead. Oh, this seems 3 kick
maybe wearing
returns
number 43
for
by the
51
way.
yards. Do you think hopefully they were squibbing it? Otherwise, why is your tight end running kicks back?
Because he started as a fullback. His first number.
Why is your
was
fullback
43.
running back kicks?
Oh, kicks. He wasn't a
Kickoffs.
starter. He wasn't a starter
Right, but why
in
is
81. He had
Emery
to earn
Moorhead
it.
returning kicks?
Oh, he's not fast to the right. Like, I don't know. Dave Williams is gone. Jeff Fisher is
Now,
returning
this
punt.
is the
I don't
final
know.
game of the season. Maybe that's.
I don't know. Yeah, big play
Neil's
down.
like,
That's a good
fuck
point.
it, Emery. What do you want to do? You want
I'm
to
getting
back
fired
kicks today?
anyway.
Sure.
Was it the was this also the last game of the
Yeah.
season?
Oh, there was
81?
a tradition. Bears Broncos to finish it. So the Bears beat the hell out of the Broncos. The Broncos went 10-6. The Bears were 6-10. Broncos coach.
In 81, it wasn't. It was before Dan Reeves.
No, it was Dan Reeves.
It was.
Was this the first? Was this his first year?
Early in his
Yes,
career?
it was
Because
his first
he
year.
would have been there 10 years.
They went 10-6. The next year they went 2-7. That was strike season. They went 2-7.
Okay. And then they got Elway.
Yeah, and then 9-7, 13-3, 11-5, 11-5, 10-4, and 1.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works when you get one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Right. Who was only in his second season, I believe, the next time the Bears played the Broncos. I remember my dad going to that game. Are we ready to go? Is it 84? They don't play in 83, do they?
They play in 83.
Yeah, because they had
And
the last
84,
place
both.
schedule. Because they had the last place schedule in 82. I know the Bears did. You said the Broncos went 2-14 and
2-7.
Reeves the second year. Or 2, yeah, because it was a strike shortened year. So last place schedule, they played back-to-back years, 83.
And former Cowboy teammates Dan Reeves and Mike Ditka went head-to-head for the first time.
Squaring off, yeah. Okay. I'm guessing Denver. I can't really remember this game. 83, huh? The Bears defense was pretty out. Was Elway even playing, or they protect him his first year? I feel like Elway didn't play a lot in 83, unlike Marino.
He did, but DeBerg played more, apparently.
Okay.
The Bears won 31-14.
Okay.
Jim
So they beat him
McMahon, 15 of 23 for 174 yards. How about this? Vince Evans completed one pass for 72 yards
Willie Galt.
to Willie Galt. Willie caught 3 passes for 98 yards, with the longest 72. You think they literally just brought Vince in to throw the bomb because he could throw the freaking ball out of Soldier Field? I mean, not that
Yes.
McMahon had a bad arm, especially pre-Charles
They're
Martin.
like, Right. He did, but yeah, Evans
maybe he's a
had
flea
cannon.
flicker. Who knew? Maybe he's they were running maybe Ditka invented the Wildcat. We didn't even know it.
Willie was a rookie. We talked about that '83 team that came on strong, and that was the ascending, '85 team. Was that game early in the year?
Yes.
My football
week
so the
5.
Bears were a little up and down that year, and then by the time they faced next year, I think they really teed off because my dad went to the game in '84. Now he said there's 3 quarterbacks played in that game.
This one had 2. DeBerg and Elway was 4 for 10 for 36 yards.
Because that Bears defense was already starting to tee off on guys in '83.
Let's see.
So you can see evidence.
9 sacks.
You can see it. Yeah, see? You can see evidence of it. So, Singletary's in his 3rd year. Hampton's probably one of the best interior linemen in the game. McMichael's starting to play every day. Duerson's a rookie. Todd Bell's probably one of the top safeties in the game. I mean, already in '83, this is a really good defense. Al Harris, the aforementioned, hell of an outside linebacker by now.
So
I don't know.
Leslie Frazier and the great Terry Schmidt had interceptions.
Yeah,
Sacks.
Schmidt somehow
Todd Bell had 3. Al Harris 2.
Position.
Todd Bell and Al Harris combined for 5 sacks.
How about that?
But then they watched the Super Bowl together a few years later. Mike Hartenstein with 2, Dan Hampton 1, and Mike Singletary had a sack.
Yeah, fun defense. Entertaining Bears team, even when they weren't going to the playoffs.
Yeah, let's see. Willie had 2 touchdown catches. He caught a 15-yarder from McMahon and a 72-yarder from Evans. And it looks like it was the 4th quarter. It looks like they just put him in at the end, and who knows? Maybe Vince threw it 2 yards and Willie went 72. They only won by 17, so it's not like there was garbage time. Because they were only 10.
I don't
you
remember
wouldn't have taken McMahon out unless he ruptured something.
I don't remember this game, but it does please me in retrospect to know that they pounded a young John Elway.
Yeah, 3 sacks. He only attempted 10 passes.
Yeah.
Eat shit, you big tooth freak.
Yeah, and then they get him again the next year when now the Bears are actually really good.
They were on the precipice of greatness. Week 2.
Yes.
Broncos at Bears.
Yep.
27-0. Bears.
There you go.
All the points in the first half.
Were there 3 quarterbacks in that game for Denver? I remember my dad would talk about. Yeah.
Now the guy who attempted the most passes was the immortal Scott Stankiewicz.
Right. I remember because my dad couldn't remember the 3rd quarterback that they ended up watching. They must have knocked out Elway and they knocked out DeBerg, I want to say. Was DeBerg still the backup?
Yeah, DeBerg and Elway both played. Stankiewicz went to North Carolina. Like a long lineage of great quarterbacks like Mitch. Oh, no, sorry. Not DeBerg. Gary Kubiak. 3 for 6 with 40 yards. And then Elway 2 for 3 for 11.
It was Kubiak,
only
not
3 sacks.
Okay. And he got scared. That's what it was. That's what it was.
The Bears played 2 quarterbacks. One played significantly better than the other, even though they both only completed 5 passes. Bob Avellini, 5 of 9 for 19 yards.
I was still there.
5 of 8 for 93 yards. So, Walter ran 20 times for 179 yards and a touchdown. Long of 72.
Bearing down on Jim Brown's record.
Let's see. Anthony Hutchison.
Goal number 32. He was
his son came back to play quarterback later for the Bears.
He was Payton's backup before either Thomas Sanders or Calvin Thomas. I can't remember which one technically was Walter's backup after, but Hutchinson was the one before that.
Calvin played in this game. Pinky rushed 3 times and caught a pass. Donald Jordan rushed 2 times for 2 yards, and then Willie and McKinnon and Moorhead all caught passes. Let's see, sacks for the Bears. Todd Bell and Otis Wilson, and one of my favorites, Tyrone Keys. Good old number 98.
Number 98, yeah. How do we go?
Zach Thomas returned kicks for the Broncos. Before he was the linebacker for the Dolphins?
Right. Go figure.
Man, the Broncos had all kinds of guys who came back much later. Then they played again in 87.
I have specific memories of this being one of the more frustrating post Super Bowl games. It was Monday Night Football again.
Post strike.
It was I want to say also it was the only time that Jim McMahon actually would throw for 300 yards. And this was a time that I would be like, man, Dan Marino constantly throws for 300 yards. Man, this guy, even like once in a while, Phil Simms throws for 300. We never can get a guy to throw for 300 yards. just because of how the Bears are structured. McMahon was never healthy. Finally, he barely got across, but it was a very frustrating game, and it was also a game in which Ditka just would not stop like glorifying Fridge, and he made a crucial fumble at the goal line. So like after like a year and a half of just like kind of getting fat and happy on everything post Super Bowl, kind of bit him in the ass. It was like a frustrating game. It was cold. It was close. It was back and forth, but it was just like annoying. That's all I remember watching it. Frustrating and everything else.
Broncos won 31-29. The Bears come in 7-2. Broncos were 4-3-1. Bears got up to a 14-0 lead on a 51-yard touchdown pass from McMahon to Willie Gault and a 6-yard pass from McMahon to Cap Bozo. And then the Broncos scored 3 times in the second quarter to take the lead at halftime, 21-17. Vance Johnson, all 3 of the fucking 3 amigos. Vance Johnson, Mark Jackson, Ricky Nattiel, all caught touchdown passes from Elway. So then the Bears scored 17 points in the third quarter to take a 29-21 lead on a 26-yard pass from McMahon to Willie Gault, a 1-yard McMahon run, and a 42-yard Kevin Butler field goal. Rich Carless made it 29-24 Bears with a field goal, and then Steve Sewell scored, it doesn't show what time, on a 4-yard run to put the Broncos ahead, and they won.
I kind of rewatched this game a year. It's on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, like the full game.
So is this? Yeah. Who's the? Let's see. This would be
Deerdorf. The first year of Al Michaels. It might have just been Giff. I can't remember. 86 or 87 was when Al Michaels came over, and the first year was him and Giff, and then Deerdorf immediately joined him. So Deerdorf might have been in that one.
Yeah, McMahon 21-34 for 311 yards, 3 touchdowns. Walter ran 12 times 73 yards and 3 passes for 26. Willie again 5 catches for 133 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a long of 51. For the Broncos, Elway 21-40 for 341, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Was not sacked. That's a problem. Vance Johnson got 6 passes for 86 yards. Steve Sewell 5 for 78, and he ran twice for 2 yards and a touchdown. Sammy Winder ran 8 times for 20 yards. Ricky Nattiel 4 catches for 93 yards. Mark Jackson 3 for 53, and Clarence K, whoever that is, 1 for 22. Bears got interceptions from Dave Duerson and Chico.
Obviously, a very entertaining game. You could imagine.
Let's see. Where's rushing? William Perry, 1 rush, no yards. I'm sure that was the fumble.
Yeah. It was. So the Bears should have won. So I pulled this game up on YouTube, Andy. The very first comment. This would be the turning point of the Broncos' 1987 season. They had a record of 4-3-1 going into the Monday night. Of course, as we've chronicled, the 80s was a very uniquely dominant period for the NFC. So, yes, even though the Broncos may have turned – and the Bears started probably going south after this game, but that would be their own issue. The Broncos got hot. They would go to their second consecutive Super Bowl coming off a butt-whooping against the Giants. The Bears, of course, were only 2 years removed from kicking the Patriots' ass. And then they would jump out to a 10-0 lead in the Super Bowl, and the Redskins then give up 6 touchdowns in the second quarter. And then
Doug Williams threw 5 touchdown passes in the second quarter. 5.
So 5. So it's it just showed you. Well, it also shows you that Ditka's Bears are fucking around. They gave this team from the inferior conference a lifeline in this game.
87 Bears were 11-4.
Yeah, they missed the game because of the strike. It was still a team that we expected to pretty much be knocking on the Super Bowl. After this season, we started to accept that they were just, a decent team, which is, we would absolutely settle for that.
And that was the Darryl Green, the only punt return Darryl Green ever returned for a touchdown in the playoff game against the Bears.
Second consecutive loss to the Redskins. So, it was still like a team. It sounds like just ages. I mean, it was a long time ago. It just sounds like a distant universe from today's Bears. But at least, here we are bitching about a 7-2 Bears team pissing away a Monday night game against an eventual Super Bowl champion. And obviously great game when you just look at the stat lines and read the things, and you can watch it on YouTube. And yet, we were so privileged by 87 that we could be pissed about that game. And if today's Bears had a game like that, we would be so optimistic.
So they would meet again in 1990
Yep, I remember watching
the
that
Bears
one.
won in an overtime thriller.
They did. I was a freshman at Northern.
16-13. Maybe not
So
a thriller, but an overtime win for sure.
So hungover, I would not get out of my bed the entire Sunday. And it was the Sunday before Thanksgiving. That's all I can.
Oh yeah. This was a Jim Harbaugh production. 13-28, 147 yards. Rushed 8 times for 25 yards. Sacked twice for 8 yards. He rushed 4 times for 36 yards. Mike Tomzak for a pass for some reason. Neil Anderson, 28 for 110. Brad Muster, 11 for 48, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
James Rouse also rushed. The receivers were Ron Morris, Wendell Davis, RoboCop, and Pinky. Wow.
Peak Neil Anderson, 1990. This was still doing the Bears record. I'm going to say was again like 7-2 or something ridiculous. They always would have these hot starts. They won that game. They would spiral.
We're 9-1.
Heat them up. Yeah,
9-1.
And the Broncos were always good those years. In fact, the Broncos once again
this was a rare off year for the Broncos. They were 3-7. They would finish 5-11.
They were defending conference champions because they were coming off their third loss in 4 years in the Super Bowl, each increasingly more humiliating. So maybe they just decided to stay away from the playoffs for a bit.
Elway tied the game in the fourth quarter on a rush. I'm sure that he helicoptered into the end zone like he did in the Super Bowl. Kevin Butler won it on a 44-yarder in the thin air of Mile High Stadium.
I'm bracing already for the next game because the first thing
Jim
I think
Morrissey
of is
had an interception.
Hey,
Sacks by
he's not
Ron Cox, good old number 54.
Yes,
Trace Armstrong, Richard Dent, Sean Gale, and William Perry. And Johnny Bailey and Mike Singletary both fumbled. No, fumble returns. I don't know who fumbled. Johnny Bailey must have probably recovered his own, I would guess.
You can't advance.
You can recover it, though. Oh. He better recover it, otherwise the other team gets it. No yards. Recovery for no yards. All right, then 1993. Wani?
Oh, 93, yeah. I was skipping over. Yeah, late season loss. That a good Denver team that might have gone to the conference championship game. That Wani's team was fighting for the playoffs in their first year, but they would lose. Somebody had a punt return for Denver in this game. Again, I was still at Northern. It was my senior year. The Bears would not get eliminated until that Lions game that you and I were both at. That was freezing cold. And Eric Kramer beat him.
The Bear quarterback that day.
It's a Harbaugh
How did they lose? Tom Willis.
Oh.
PT, 14 of 29, 120 yards. 3 interceptions. Of course. Tim Worley led the Bears, 20 carries, 72 yards. Ironhead ran 3 times for 6 yards. Terry Obie, 2 for 24. Bob Christian caught 4 passes for 40. Ryan Wetnight caught a pass. Tommy Waddle caught 2. Curtis Conway, 1 for 9. Thanks, Kurt, for coming out.
Rookie. Who's the rookie?
Elway, huge game. 4 for 24, 113 yards. There was very little offense in this game. Total yards, 185 for the Bears, 234 for the Broncos. And no scoring in the fourth quarter. It was 10-3 at the half, and 13-3 was the final. Broncos won.
I think was the Broncos only scoring a punt return? Or do I misremember
maybe
that?
one set up. Ralph Del Pino had a 1-yard rush.
Yeah,
and this is pre-play-by-play.
I think that's a Bears team that was fighting for the playoffs. Harbaugh must have been hurt, even though he wasn't that good. But there's no way that Wannstedt would just jerk him out because Willis did the year before and they were out of it. But they were right. They're gonna ride or die with Harbaugh. And then after the season, Wani's like, "Fuck you! I'm bringing in Eric Kramer."
Harbaugh played 15 games. This must have been the one he missed. PT only started 1. Harbaugh, great year. This is a typical Jim Harbaugh year. Completed 61% of his passes for 2,000 yards in 15 games. Thanks. 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Neil Anderson. 4 Bears completed attempted passes. PT, Chris Gardocki, 0 for 2, and Neil Anderson, 0 for 1. The trick plays Wani could pull is amazing.
Chris Gardocki had 2?
2 fake punts. Neither of them worked. Good job. Maybe it's just terrible snaps. What do you even call it?
Yeah, one of them had to be. There's no way you can call it. Not even Wannstedt.
Well, it's Wannstedt. Not like a trick play ever burned him in the ass.
No.
Now, but let's go to 1996.
I don't, because the first, just like I said, that Monday night game in '87, I just think about like the fridge fumbling. I think about another inappropriate player being put in a position to succeed, and it happened at the end of this game. Does that ring a bell for you, Andy?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the very first thing and this was a Wannstedt team. Yeah, this was a Wannstedt team that, like, just like '93, like they kind of petered around. They could have been in the playoff picture. They only missed, and there are a handful of games that they could have won. And the Broncos were good. I mean, they were still hadn't won a Super Bowl, but they were about to in the next couple of years. They probably went to the playoffs. The Bears should have won this game in Mile High, and they had a drive down with Dave Craig in his tiny little hands. Yeah. Like inside the 5 at the end of the game. Oh,
good. The play-by-play is here. We're on to this.
Yeah, do it up. What's the score at this point? What's the clock?
Okay, so the Bears down 17-12. 12. That's such a Bear score. 17-12. Take over with 2:56 to go on their own 20. And Dave Craig is gonna show John Elway who's boss.
The old AFC West gunslinger. Yeah, they would square off in the 80s.
So they start off with the ultra back for 3 yards. Then Craig passed to Tony Carter, the great Tony Carter. Then they give it to Tony Carter for no gain. Then Craig ran for a yard on 4th and 1. Oh, they had to convert a 4th and 1 on their own 29 with less about 2 minutes to go. They did it. I can't stop them now. Let's see. He fired around for a little bit. Craig had another sneak on a 3rd and 2 to get him to. I can't see the time, but they had to use their second timeout, and they're at the Broncos 39. Now stuff's getting exciting. Incomplete to Michael Timpson. Big shock. 14-yarder to Curtis Conway. Then a 7-yarder to Raymont. So now they've got 2nd and 3 at the Bronco 18. Time's ticking. Dave Craig, incomplete to Michael Timpson. But then there's pass interference on Randy Hilliard, probably trying to stop Michael Timpson. So the Bears have the ball. 1st and goal at the Denver 1. This game's in the bag.
Yeah, punch it in.
They give it to Raymont. He loses a yard. Bears call their final timeout. So now they're on the 2. It's 2nd and goal from the 2. And no timeouts. They run Raymont. He loses 2 yards. So now you're in a hurry. Everybody's running up the line. And the Bears are their life is in their hands. And they're Wannstedt sends in the plays. It has worked in the past. They've run it before this season. Nobody's going to see it coming. Puts in defensive tackle Jim Flanigan to play tight end.
Tackle eligible.
Yeah, the Bears have been drafting fucking tight ends for the last 5 years.
Eligible.
But we got good old number 99. Doesn't even have to check in. 99's eligible, right? Anything over 80?
Back down.
Well, the thing they're not going to do is they're not going to throw it to. They put Flanigan in, and they're going to run again. They're on the 2. You're not going to throw to Jim Flanigan. That would be stupid. Why would you throw to Jim Flanigan? And they throw to Jim Flanigan, and he drops it in the end zone.
I mean, he was open.
He was.
I mean, so it wasn't
but
like.
He was also throwing it to a defensive tackle.
I know.
That was not the last play of the game.
Yeah, what was the
4th and goal from the 2. Dave Craig incomplete for Curtis Conway, and the Bears lose.
What was the Bears' record after that game?
4-6.
Okay,
so they would have been 5-5. The Broncos, though, here's the kick in. The Broncos were 8-1 coming in. Bears outplayed them. Going to beat the Broncos. This is the kind of thing that's going to propel you to greatness. Instead, it was the beginning. This was the beginning of the end of the Dave Wannstedt era. But it would take 2 years for it to finally go away.
Right. It started. The warning signs were after that Dallas game when they pissed away the Washington game the very next week. But like it was starting to pile up. Like Jesus Christ. Like, that's a game we should have won. I mean, the Bears were just a year and a half removed from a playoff spot, and pieces are supposed to be in place. You're right. That kind of is a little bit of what passes for the high point of the Wannstedt era, in effect. Like, at the time, we didn't know how bad it would get, but you're right. You're absolutely right.
Let's see. I want to see what Flanigan was on this season offensively.
Well, that play was used a few times. I know. It was used in the wild card playoff ass kicking in '94 in Candlestick on a 2-point conversion late in the game.
Jim Flanigan, for his career, was targeted 6 times. He caught 3 passes for 3 touchdowns. He caught in '96. He had already caught a touchdown pass.
Yeah,
and he caught 2 in '95. So
yeah.
Don't they were actually starting to cover him. Although he was open,
He was. I remember the play. Yeah. He was open, and he just fight. And I don't know what you can say about the pass. It was there. He just didn't catch it.
He had the Bears' only sack in the game.
Yeah, I was not a big Flanigan fan at all. Just because he wore 99, I thought that takes a lot of chutzpah.
Well, I mean, he had started his career at Notre Dame. Started as fullback, right? Then he moved to linebacker.
I think so.
And he played tackle for the Bears. The de-evolution that was previously that path forged by Chris Zorich.
Yes, exactly. The undersized, the guy that looked really good.
He's way too slow to be a linebacker, and he's way too small to be a tackle. Let's draft him. All right, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's get him.
He very much.
We need somebody to wave a towel.
In Zorich's footsteps, absolutely. Yeah. Bit of a dark age in its
They
own
would
right.
not play again for 7 seasons.
So they didn't play in '99.
Did not play until 2003.
I wonder why they didn't play, because there's expansion going on and shit now. So I don't know why that would be. And then 2003 is on the other side of the realignment. In '03, I know that it was a Bears upset in Denver. Nobody expected the Bears to win, and they did. I think it was Brian Griese might have been the Denver quarterback.
I mean, why would they not expect you to have the great Dick Duran as your coach? You win any game with Dick Duran.
It was Duran's last year. He was a dead man walking. And so it's one of those unexpected victories, right? Bears won?
19-10. Yeah. The Bears were 3-7. The Broncos were 6-4, and Bears won their 4th game of the season.
I would have preferred they won the game in '96 when they had the worst record, but whatever.
This was 2 quarterbacks in this one for the Bears. And
Cordell?
2 of the all-time best. Yep, Cordell and Chris Chandler.
Yeah.
Cordell 7 of 15 for 47 yards. Chandler 8 for 18 for 79. It's not exactly an offensive show. Jake Plummer was the quarterback for the Broncos. 19 to 35, 176 yards.
That's right.
Let's see who scored the touchdowns. Rod Smith caught a touchdown pass from Jake. Paul Ettinger kicked 3 field goals in the first half. Then Jason Elam put the Broncos back up 10-9 before Cordell had a 1-yard rush, and then Ettinger kicked a field goal with 47 yards with 8:46 to go, and nobody else scored.
It's funny to hear like Jason Elam, because I think he was in that 19. When you get to the place kicker, sometimes it's funny. Like they'll come up like 7 games apart, because he was, or maybe that was Rick Carlos. Never mind. Carry on.
Broncos were 10.5-point favorites.
Wow.
The Bears went in and kicked their ass in Mile High. Now it's in Vesco Field at Mile High by then. 2000.
So now there's no more 5th place schedule. Now you can like set your watch to the fact that they're going to play every 4 years. And the very first thing that do you have anything that even comes to mind in 2007 Bears Broncos? Because I do. It was a 3:00 game, and it was the time where Mike Shanahan could not stop punting to Devin Hester.
That's right. And
that was 07. The Bears are defending conference champions.
Who was the announcer? Because the announcer just laughed. It was a CBS show, I think, and it was like.
But it's not.
Or was it a?
It's a.
Yeah, it was afternoon. I'm sure it was a CBS game.
It would have been CBS probably back then. They still would have followed that rule. Bears were home. And also, it's a game I want to point out that the Bears tied the game late. Rex Grossman, I always felt got a bad rap. I'm not going to die on this hill or waste much energy. I'm just going to say that Grossman oftentimes pulled the Bears into victories, like pulled games out for them, and never once, to my knowledge, as much as you would have some shitty games, never actually pissed the game away in the 4th quarter, which is something Cutler did a handful of times, even early and late in his career.
Probably including this one.
Right, exactly right. And then on the other side was Grossman, who had already been benched the year after the Super Bowl, and then he'd come back, even though everybody hated him, and he threw a touchdown to Bernard Berrien on 4th down that pushed the game to overtime. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm sure. Devin in this game had 232 yards worth of return yardage.
Yes.
He had a touchdown. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown.
Oh, I was wrong then. I thought it was 2 punt returns. The punt return, though, was the dagger if Wayne Larrabee were around. It happened late.
That was the kick return. The punt return was to start the third quarter.
Though, right? Okay.
12:49 in the first quarter, 75 yards. Then the Broncos took the lead back 20-13, and with 2:26 left in the third, Devin ran the kickoff return. So basically, well, there's probably a drive in between.
I feel like Shanahan was criticized for kicking, but you can't really.
I mean, the Bears had the Bears had no offense to that point except for Devin, and just don't kick it to him. So anyway, Devin ties the game at 20, and then 15 seconds later, Jay throws a 68-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Marshall.
Whoa!
And Jerry Angelo's up there going, I got to get one of these guys, and then Phil Emery can get the other. This will be good.
Wow. Talk about ships crossing.
They went up. The Broncos went up 34-20 on a 14-yard pass from Jay to Tony Scheffler. And then Rex got to work. Let him down, and the original Adrian Peterson 4-yard touchdown rush. And then Bernard Berry on a 3-yard pass from Rex tied it with 28 seconds to go. And in overtime, Robbie Gould kicked a 39-yard field.
Robbie Gould.
I'm going to look at the play-by-play and see if Jay threw some kind of crippling interception, because I just feel like he would have.
I love it. But
guess who was punting and kicking off? This is great for the Broncos.
Punting and kicking off? Todd Sauerbrun?
Yes.
Really? I was just guessing.
So Todd punted and kicked a touchdown for the Bears. Devin.
So I never drew that connection that we got some satisfaction out of his failure of a career as the Bears in that game. That's great. I must have known that because that popped out of my mouth because I just vaguely remember he finished his career with Denver. He had a long career.
Looks like Jay actually had a good game.
Sounds like
the worst thing that happened for Jay was that on the last play they had before Rex brought him down for the tying touchdown. It was a 3rd and 11. He got sacked by Wally Agunlia.
Yeah, that's all I can say. Yeah. All right, that's fine.
Let's see what the stats were in this one. We had since we had everybody's two favorite Bears, Super Bowl quarterback Rex Grossman and Jay.
Both of two of the few starting quarterbacks in conference title games, right? Let's see what that is. Steve Fuller, Jim McMahon, and then
Rex and Jay.
Jay in 2010. Yeah, that's it. Jesus Christ, we've only been to
Jay was 17-31, 302 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, got sacked twice. Brandon Marshall caught 4 passes for 97 yards. Rex was 17-33 for 193 and a touchdown. Got picked once.
Not horrible.
Adrian ran 17 attempts for 45 yards. Cedric Benson led the Bears, 8 for 47. NIU star Garrett Wolf ran 3 times for 29 yards.
He was a rookie.
Receiving, not a whole well. Des Clark led with 61 yards. Looks like Berrien caught 3 for 24, including the touchdown. But yeah, it was like emerging. We didn't even know it. It was emerging of the Bears' present and future with Jay and Brandon both lighting it up.
In a wild-ass game. I know.
And thankfully, the Bears would never have to face the Broncos, would never have to face Jay with the Broncos again.
Right. In 2011, he wasn't even with the Bears because he was hurt. That's the year that he was on an MVP trajectory, gets hurt. And just like the 1996 game immediately affects me because I think of Jim Flanigan dropping the pass, the 2011 game, I immediately gravitate to a horribly scarring negative thing that happened also at the end of that game.
It's like one of the, people will go on, like in present time, like last time, embarrassing game in Kansas City. I would rather relive that game in Kansas City than this one in Denver Like, I'd rather relive that one in Kansas City 100 times than this one once, where it's Lovie Smith against John Fox, and it's Caleb Haney against Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
And this was right when the Broncos had basically, they were stuck with Tebow. And
because
they were running they basically just said, fuck it, we're just going to, we'll run the option with him. He ran 12 times for 49 yards, but he did throw 40 passes. 40!
It's and they basically
it's got to be his career high in yards. It's got to be 236 yards. I can't imagine he ever.
And I will say, Tebow actually won a playoff game that season when he threw that walk-off touchdown against Pittsburgh.
Demarius. Yeah.
But by not winning this game, they not only knocked them. They eventually would knock. This is like the game. This game in that Chiefs game the week before, where they didn't knock down the Hail Mary and Roy Williams batted one up. That stretch of games where if they just won like one or two of those games, they're probably in the playoffs. Even and Cutler would have come back, and it's just and not only did they not do that, but they sort of enabled the Tebow myth. The Bears win this game, Denver doesn't go to the playoffs. I mean, I don't care. At the time, it was more aggravating because Tebow sucked. And the game ended didn't Matt Prater kick like a 58-yarder to tie it? I mean, it took Marion running out of bounds. It took every possible second an inch for Denver to hang in that game. Another game the Bears should have just snuffed it out.
Yeah,
they just couldn't snuff it out.
The Bears were up 10-7, and they had the ball with 2:05 to go. They ran the ball to Marion 3 times.
The first one's 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, the first one had 2:05. Left tackle, no gain. And then the next one, it says, it's very innocuous. It says left end for 5 yards. Well, the problem was it says tackle by DJ Williams. It was not a tackle by DJ Williams. DJ Williams pushed Marion out of bounds, stopping the clock at 1:55 instead of running an extra 40 seconds off. He could have easily gone down inbounds, and instead he fighting for extra yards and got shoved out of bounds. Then they gave it to him, and he went up the middle for a yard. So the Bears had to punt. They took a delay of game to give him more room. I'm sure those 5 yards didn't come to haunt him. And then Adam Podlesh punted 43 yards. So now with 56 seconds to go, Tim Tebow comes out, and he's on his own 20. It's like, fucking Tim Tebow couldn't drive this team into field goal range with a truck. 9 yards to Eric Decker, 11 yards to Lance Ball. Then he spikes the ball with 53 seconds to go on the Denver 40, so they've only gone 20 yards. But then complete to Matt Willis for 19 yards. And a couple of that's to the Bear 41. He then throws 2 incomplete passes, and he runs for no gain. Broncos must have used their last timeout. Matt Prater comes out, kicks a 59-yard field goal to tie it.
Yep.
So then we get to overtime. The Bears won the toss and took the ball. They shouldn't have. They should have done the Marty Morenweg.
Yeah.
But Caleb's moving them. 18 yards to Johnny Knox. 5 yards to your favorite Bear, Roy Williams.
Yeah.
He completes a pass to Marion Barber for 16 yards. We're moving. Incomplete to Kellen Davis. For some reason, the Bears called timeout. Who knows? They probably lined up wrong. And Barber carries over left tackle for 3 yards, and they're at the Bronco 41. They're starting to creep into Robbie Gould field goal range. The Bears are just going to win this game. Marion Barber is going to totally redeem himself, and we'll never worry about it.
We're not going to worry about it.
They hand him the ball. He runs off left tackle for 5 yards, and he fumbles.
Oh, that's right.
And it's recovered by Elvis Dumerville at the Bronco 33. So Tebow gets the ball with 12:47 to go, and he throws a couple short passes to Willis McGahee, a 10-yarder to Demaryius Thomas, a 16-yarder to Demaryius Thomas, and he gets them to the on 3rd and 4. He gets a 1-yard gain to teenager Amobi Okoye. Remember him? The Bears drafted like a 19-year-old defensive tackle. Good old number 90, Amobi Okoye.
Good call.
Bears call timeout because Lovey's like, well, we're gonna need time. We get the ball back here, and Matt Prater kicked a 51-yarder to beat the Bears.
Wow, Matt Prater kicks 110 yards of football
If that game is at sea level, the Bears win.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
But honestly, if Marion doesn't run out of bounds, they win. And if Marion doesn't fumble, they win.
Right. I think everyone forgets.
And it's
about
too
the
bad
fumble.
too, because like Marion Barber, the Cowboys had him, right? And he was kind of on the scrap heap, but the Bears picked him up, and he played really well for the Bears. Like it was a really good pickup, and then that's all he's going to be remembered for.
Right now he's dead.
Well, that was probably because of this game.
I don't think he pulled it down anymore.
Broke his heart. No, it just broke his heart. He lost the will to live.
Yeah. Well, so did we, frankly, after that game.
4 years later. No. Yeah, 4 more years later. We're up to
John
2015
Fox
now.
his old team. Yeah, I have no. Again, I can check
you know
out
this
here
one. I mean, you know something about this game because it became part of a trilogy of greatness. For
Brock Osweiler,
for renowned backup Brock Osweiler, who played 3 starts for 3 different teams against the Bears and won them all.
Correct.
And he probably won
Texans,
5 games in his whole career.
Right. Texans, Broncos, and who the hell is the other team? Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, he beat him with the Ravens too. Brock Osweiler owned the Bears. And Aaron Rodgers. At least the Bears beat Aaron Rodgers. They never
beat Brock Osweiler.
Never beat Brock Osweiler.
Yes.
So this one was.
I kind of do remember that game though.
The Bears were 4-5. This is the end of Jay. Broncos 8-2, 8-1. No, 7-2 coming in. Gary Kubiak.
Peyton Manning. It should have been a Peyton Manning game.
So this for Fox, this is like revenge game, right? So he had taken the Broncos to the Super Bowl and gotten blown out. And he had taken them to playoffs every year he was there. I think they went to the AFC Championship game twice. And John Elway is like, you are not the guy to win a Super Bowl. I want my old college roommate to take over. So fuck off, go to retirement. John Fox was going to go to retire. And then Ernie Accorsi's hairpiece says, we hired a rookie GM, and for the first time in Bear history, you guys need to hire a coach who's done this before. Which honestly is not bad advice. When they inevitably have to replace the Flus, it would be nice to hire a guy who had already been through this shit with some other team. The problem is this was John Fox this was the football equivalent of Dusty taking the Cub job to pay his taxes. Except at least Dusty the first year was like super engaged. John was never. Yes. He couldn't give a shit from the day he walked in the door. The Bears were just a check, and if you fire me, you got to pay me, and I don't care. But this was a game he was ready for because fuck the Broncos. I'm going to show them. I'm going to take this piece of shit Bear team, and I'm going to kick your ass. And he almost beat him, but he couldn't stop.
And he did.
Brock Osweiler.
And eventually the Broncos, I believe, this is the year that they would win the Super Bowl too. Then, so.
Yeah, you think, we dodged a bullet. No Peyton Manning. We're going to win this one. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I see Foxy couldn't.
Peyton's over there having his neck paper mache, whatever the fuck they did to it, and get him a tune-up before the playoffs. Yeah. Then we're just going to, and Kubiak's like, we can start fucking Osweiler against you guys. We'll beat you.
Right.
That's a noon kickoff. The CBS crew was in. I'm sure it was, the...
Well, who would have been back in 2015?
2015.
Phil Simms.
I doubt we got, I don't think we got Phil. And that was pre-Nance too, right? That was probably... Greg Gumbel.
Yeah, I said Greg
and his
Gumbel.
wig.
Yeah.
I don't know. This was probably Wesley Walker and not Wesley Walker. What was his name? And Miro Roder. That's who did the game.
No, what the hell is that guy's name?
Wayne Walker and Miro Roder. They weren't even a team, but they sent them to. Wayne didn't have Disneyland tickets that week.
Right.
Wanted to go see the Bean. He'd heard all about the Bean. It's this new, it was a relatively new thing. I want to go see the Bean.
Yes.
I want to go sit with Bob Newhart. I want to sit by Bob Newhart on the statue.
I want to take that.
Send me to Chicago. I'll do the game.
I want to take that convoluted route home that Bob Newhart did in the opening sequence of his Chicago-based show.
Should have had a coked up Chester Markle doing the game. That would have been fun. Was he dead by then? He's probably dead.
No, Chester Markle is still alive, I believe. You can't bury him yet. Forgotten.
He tried to kill himself.
No, he's not.
Right? We unearthed that. Well, that's too bad. Now I feel bad.
I believe drinking antifreeze. I believe that's what it was.
That's right. That's a half-hearted attempt.
He failed.
Kind of like the field goal he tried to kick against the Bears. It's a half-hearted
Right,
attempt.
which he failed.
And
with
this
that
time,
one, right,
instead,
yeah,
think about this.
yeah.
Think about the parallels. That time, he kicks it, bounces back to him, runs for touchdown, the biggest glory. This one, tries to kill himself, bounces back, he catches it. He's still alive.
Right.
Still writing.
He's
writing books, right? Didn't we find out he's writing books in like the North Woods of Michigan or something? Or
Yeah,
Wisconsin?
the Upper Peninsula. Yeah, doing the lecture circuit. Yeah, he was an immigrant.
Everything worked
that
out
was
fine
raised
for,
up.
for Chester.
Yeah, Chester's fine. I'm not worried about Chester. Maybe he is dead. I'll have to look it up.
I think you're right. I think he's alive. I don't want to. I've already buried a guy.
He's just hit.
Oh, he just
You
died?
don't want to bury a guy that
Seconds ago?
No, you don't want to bury a guy.
Oh, I
that
thought there
what?
was news. I thought you were saying the news had just come across the ticker that Chester Markle died.
Right. Because of course it would.
He's alive.
Yeah,
73 years,
alive.
339 days.
Yeah, all right.
That's right. He went to Hillsdale.
The school that is so conservative they won't even take financial aid.
He is one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's one of 7 Hillsdale guys who played in the NFL. One of them is most famous for being. Was he the offensive coordinator for the Colts? Howard Mudd?
Ted Marsha-Broda? Oh.
Howard
no.
Mudd is like Peyton Manning's favorite coach of all time.
Oh, what was it? Tom Moore?
Well, I know Howard Mudd. Oh, I'm way off now. Right. Peyton is kind of, it's kind of relevant. We're just talking about Peyton.
Yeah, no, I thought like the offensive coordinator in Indianapolis was Tom Moore, but he
was the offensive line coach, the longtime offensive line coach for the Colts, and Peyton loved him.
He coached up NIU legend Ryan Deem.
Yeah, he was the offensive line coach for this is a long time. I'm going to guess 50 years. Why not? He was a Delta Tau Delta at Michigan State. Very important. That's right in the first line of his Wikipedia. Right. One of the brothers must have written that for him.
Yes.
Let's see. So in this game, how close did John come to pulling the upset? It was 10-9. Robbie Gold's and did Robbie miss a field goal? Is that why they had to cut him so he could kick 10 more years in the league? He made a 37-yarder at the end of the third quarter to make it 10-9 Broncos. Then Cody Latimer caught a 10-yard pass from Brock with early in the fourth quarter. Jeremy Langford scored a touchdown. They went for 2 to tie. Oh, let's see what they did. They had a chance 24 seconds to go to send the game to overtime. So they got the ball at their own 35 with a minute 49 to go. And Jay is like, all right, Foxy, for you, we're winning this.
That's right.
Completed a pass to Zach Miller for 20 yards, and Zach's knee didn't explode.
Right.
And 12-yarder to Josh Bellamy. Oh, all the stars are on this team. Marcus Wilson for 4 yards. Marcus, Marquess. Incomplete intent for Martellus Bennett, but there was a pass interference on Bradley Roby. So the Bears with 53 seconds were at the Denver 11. Threw a complete pass to Jeremy Langford for 9 yards. So second and goal at the 2. Why is it second and goal? Second and 1 at the 2. Jay threw incomplete for Josh Bellamy. And then Jeremy Langford ran it in for the touchdown. The 2-point attempt was a handoff. Fox, very creative. Jeremy Langford was stuffed. Robbie Gold's onside kick was recovered by Demaryius Thomas. Brock took a knee. And John's dreams of revenge were tossed asunder. Adam Gase was the offensive coordinator. Future Bronco coach, right?
And still at this point, future Dolphins coach, right? Was it Jets or Dolphins?
Not a Broncos. Oh, no, that's wrong. He was the offensive coordinator. He got let go when Kubiak came in. Kubiak was going to run his own offense. Came to Chicago with Fox. He wasn't the head coach. Got the Dolphins job, and then he got the Jets job, and he did the weird eye thing in the press conference.
God, he's already had 2 gigs. For the life of me, I can't even remember. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's too bad that the Bears couldn't win that game for Foxy. But that would have that loss would have helped contribute to them getting the pick for Mitch. What if you win that game and then you're too far down and you can't get it, and then the Bears would have had to settle for Patrick Mahomes?
Oh, yeah, sure. Or really Deshaun Watson. Either one.
Because I'm sure Mitch was going. Mitch wasn't going to be the third quarterback taken unless the Bears did. I mean, come on, everybody loved him. except for nobody loved him except for Ryan Pace.
Yeah.
Now we get to the last time the two teams played. There are parallels everywhere.
I cannot even remember this. Oh, I know this game. I was my son's birthday.
The 2019 season started. This is the 100th anniversary of the NFL. The Bears were coming off an exciting season that ended in disappointment with Cody doing the double doink.
Yes.
But the Bears are coming, man. This is a hot team. They're Super Bowl bound. They're just going to shrug that off. They're going to Super Bowl. They put the finishing touches on the Super Bowl team. It's going to be great. So Sunday or Thursday night to open the season, Packers-Bears. We're going to break the tradition of the Super Bowl team opening on Thursday night. Packers-Bears. Everybody's going to love it. It's going to be an offensive, Matt Nagy, big-brained offensive genius. Aaron Rodgers over there. It's going to be thrown around 10-3.
None of this is true.
One of the worst games ever played.
To open
Bear
the
fans
season.
were crushed. It's like, oh my God, we suck again. Aaron kicked our ass again, and we looked awful doing it. Week 2, the Bears go to Denver. And honestly, the offense was terrible. But I gotta do this justice.
So they cut Cody Parkey not after the kick, but after he went on the Today Show, which they should have, because what the fuck was he doing? So they actually cut him, right? He was not on the team next year.
No, he's gone. They had signed him to a huge contract for a kicker at the time, 3 years, $9 million.
Which
they just ended up eating the last $6 million.
It just shows you the galaxy brain of Ryan Pace. Like for 18 years, we had picked up Robbie Gould off the scrap heap. What other NFL? The Patriots. Belichick had let him go, and he was the most successful kicker in Bears franchise history. In the last 5 years, we've had, or 3 years, or ever since this game, somehow after all this, I guess it's just 2-3 years. But Cairo, or as John Fox would call him, Carlos
Santos.
He looks like he could be there for whatever. Like, my point is, they didn't go and throw a whole bunch of money at Cairo Santos and say, "Here, be our kicker." The only person they've thrown a bunch of money at to be their kicker was that shithead.
Right. So the 2017 Bears, the Fox's last season, ended up going through 3 kickers: Connor Barth, Mike Nugent, Ted's kid, and Cairo Santos. And Cairo's problem was he got hurt during his second game. He pulled his hamstring. And the Bears are like, well, fuck it, we need a kicker. So I think that's when they got the Nuge. So they just let him go. He was gone. They didn't put him on injured reserve. They just cut him. He's a kicker. Who gives a shit? He's a kicker. Although he had to that point, he had a nice career with the Chiefs. But that year in 17, so in 17, the Chiefs said, I think he got hurt, and the Chiefs cut him after 3 games. And so he's on the scrap heap, and he goes around, and he kicks for the Bears, and he kicks in 2 games. He makes his only field goal attempt. No, he missed a 50-yarder. So he was 1 for 2, and he made both extra points. But I'm pretty sure there was a game where they didn't have a kicker at the end of it because he was hurt. And so they just jettisoned him. And so they're going to fix that. So we're going to get Cody Parkey, who was like the most accurate kicker in the NFL the year before, but the Dolphins are like, this little fucker can't kick the ball more than 40 yards. And honestly, that's not going to work. So they didn't try to re-sign him. And Pace swooped in and signed him, and then they immediately realized, holy shit, this guy really can't kick the ball very far. And then the biggest problem was when he needed to kick it more than 40 yards, he ended up having to kick it low to try to get it out. And so if you remember, we talked about this, he actually made a field goal. He made the first attempt, but
Doug Peterson
called timeout. But he barely made it. It was a 43-yard field goal, and he barely made it, but he made it. And so you could literally see on the second kick, he's given a little extra oomph. And he kicked it lower, and it got tipped at the line. They showed on the replay over that really did somebody got their hands on it, which you shouldn't. If you're an NFL kicker, unless a guy breaks through, you should not be able to get a kick block from 43 yards.
Correct.
You kick it straight up, basically, and
You're
plenty of leg. But he had to try to, and it got sent off just enough. And then, of course, it's perfect bear. It hits, how many times do you see a kick? If it's it just ticks the inside of the upright. It goes in anyway. This one went down, then it hits the crossbar, and then it bounces out instead of in. Just torture. And it broke Matt Nagy's brain.
It did.
His offense, we didn't really realize it at the time, although in hindsight, you just look at the stats, you can tell his offense had already been figured out. And he didn't have,
True.
we should have known, but we didn't realize at the time, there was no plan B. Like, once a little assortment of Andy Reid plays that he brought with him had been figured out, he couldn't do anything else. And so the Bears went from scoring lots of points, and they were often set up by Vic Fangio, who would be coaching the Broncos in this game.
Field position. Yep.
They had been set up by Vic's Bears just stealing the ball and going, all right, Mitch, you only got to go, you got to go 40 yards, see what you can do with it. Now, Fangio, the only reason he's the Broncos coach in this game.
In this game in 2019.
Right, is because when the Bears lost, and the Bears defense deserves Mitch almost bailed their ass out because Mitch drove them down. The Bears scored a touchdown to give them the lead, and all they had to do was stop Nick Foles and the Eagles, who hadn't really been moving the ball really well, and the Eagles went right down the field and threw a touchdown pass to Golden Tate. And so some of that hangs on the defense, and then Mitch with a couple of really nice throws to Allen Robinson got the Bears into field goal range. Yep. So that offseason, we were feeling good about Mitch. We really thought we had something because he was legitimately there was some good quarterback. Now, he had been terrible though until the last two drives. He was awful, but those last two drives were like, look at him. When the chips are down, Mitch is our boy.
It's just been a bad game.
So then they head to this game, and remember they had spent the offseason with this tortured kicker tryout thing where they literally brought in a dozen guys, and they'd bring them in waves, and they would do stupid shit like they did this thing called Augusta Silence, where instead of just trying to distract the kicker while he was kicking, everybody was as quiet as possible to try to unnerve them, and all this bullshit. And they ended up, the guy who won, nobody won the kicking competition. Nobody won it. None of those 12 guys, they traded for Eddy Piniero from the Raiders. They traded for Eddie. And he shows up, and he's got a big leg, and this is going to be great. And Eddie's going to save us. And Eddie didn't have to do shit in the first game because he made the only field goal that he tried. So we're like, kicker's probably solved. And then we get to this game, and Vic's Broncos offense sucks, and the Bears offense sucks. And let's see. Broncos kick a field goal. Brandon McManus kicks a field goal. Then Eddy Piniero makes a 40-yarder, and then he makes a 52-yarder. We're like, oh, this is great. David Montgomery runs in for a yard. The Bears are up 13-3 to start the fourth quarter. Feeling really good about this. We're just going to win this game. Thank God. See, the Bears are good. It was just a bad week against the Packers. It'll be fine.
Sure.
The Broncos kick a field goal, make it 13-6, and then do you know who's playing quarterback for the Broncos in this game? They had a Super Bowl quarterback.
Oh, Marcus Simeon? No.
Joe Flacco.
Oh, shit. No, I do not remember that at all. At all.
So the Flacco, with 31 seconds to go, throws a 7-yard touchdown pass to Emmanuel Sanders to make it 13-12. It's like, okay, all we need who was our defensive coordinator? Sean Desai?
After Vic? Who the hell was it? Fuck if I know.
We need the defensive.
Sean Desai, might have been.
I think. Does that sound right? It doesn't sound right.
It might have been.
Was it Vince Tobin? Was it Mel Tucker?
No,
thank God it was either of those guys.
And his silver bullet band.
Anyway, we just stop the 2-point conversion. We win. That's all you got to do. Flacco to Emmanuel Sanders. It's good.
Again.
So now the Bears. Mitch is going to have to dig deep and bail us out, and there's no way Mitch is going to be able. Mitch hasn't done shit all day. Kickoff is a touchback. So under the new rules, Bears get the ball as 25 instead of
25.
31 seconds to go. Mitch completes a 5-yard pass to Trey Burton, but there's a roughing the passer on Bradley Chubb, so 15 more yards on top of that. Mitch goes incomplete for Allen Robinson. Mitch goes complete for Allen Robinson again. So now it's 3rd and 10 on the Bears' 45, and he throws incomplete to Tariq Cohen.
Another flag.
On top of that, how about this? The Bears get a penalty for too many men on the field.
So
now they're on their own 40, and it's 4th and 15 on their own 40 with 9 seconds to go. Mitch goes deep to Allen Robinson for 25 yards. Robinson gets tackled, and the officials
it was controversial.
Say, game's over.
Yeah.
And then they all huddle because the Bears were trying to call timeout, and they decide there's 1 second left.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they give the Bears, they put the 1 second on the clock, and Eddy Piniero makes a 53-yard field goal to win the game for the Bears. And the Bears are back, Super Bears, Super Bowl. It's all back on. Thank God.
Well, we've done almost every team because we've been doing this is our fourth year doing this, and I don't know if we still have to do the Chargers. So I'm not going to say anything other than, that put us back on a year removed from the playoffs, a disappointing loss. We're now 1-1. And I don't remember what happened over the next few weeks, but it was the Chargers game that really broke us. And so let's just tease that for when we do the Chargers.
Well, we could tease the fact that, so the next week was Monday night, right? Yeah, Monday night against the Redskins. Bears had the offense showed up. Bears won 31-15, feeling good. Then they beat the Vikings 16-6.
Yes, 3-1, yes.
Then actually the season really started to go off the rails when they went. Do you remember where they went to play the Raiders?
Oh yeah, London.
Yes, and
the Raiders sucked.
they didn't take their rookie linebacker because of reasons. Roquan did not go. And they
I forgot that team was 3-1.
And the Broncos, the Raiders,
and they still
were not
almost
good.
Won.
The Raiders
but even
were not
in that
good.
game,
that was the one where
the defense was a letdown because even Trubisky pulled that game out of the water in the third quarter. They got the lead back, and then the defense. Mac had a terrible game against his old team.
There's a defensive coordinator in between Vic and Desai. I don't remember why I didn't remember this.
Holy fuck, who?
So he's a coach who's best known for when he had to go on medical leave. The guy who replaced him won Coach of the Year.
Oh, the mustachioed. What's the guy's name? Arians is the guy that replaced him.
Yeah, Chuck Pagano. When he got leukemia,
that's right.
He, obviously stepped down to get his treatment, and Arians came in and proved to be a much better coach than him. And the Colts were like, well, we can't fire the guy with leukemia. He just beat it, and they kept him. And then Bruce went on to much more success with.
Well, the irony.
And he should have been the Bears. He thought he was going to be the Bears coach.
He's the girl. He's the girl that got away.
He left the interview going, "Well, I got that," and they hired fucking Mark Trestman instead.
Oh, I love when it comes full circle like that.
Here's what I remember about the. Have we done the Raiders? Is this one we're going to have to do?
Because the Raiders were the extra, the 17th game last year.
So the thing I remember about the London game was, John Gruden was their coach. They had a bunch of injuries, and they ran out of wide receivers, and all they had were tight ends. And Gruden, like on the fly, changed their entire offense where they ran everything out of two tight ends, and they ran the ball most of the time, but they did have plays where they crossed the tight end, and they befuddled the Bears. It was a true case of literally watching one football coach win the game and the other football coach not have any idea what to do to stop it.
Love it.
And that started a rapid descent for the Bears.
Yeah, so
they did
that was
rally.
The double whammy.
They did rally there.
Yeah,
they had
I remember
a winning streak at the end to make it look good.
Yeah. It was it was. I forgot that team went 3-1 though too until you just.
I don't remember. The other thing that happened was Mitch
started off 3-1.
I don't know which game it was, but Mitch separated his shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder. And they basically took all of the bootlegs and other stuff out of the offense.
But wasn't that the playoff year though?
Was that the playoff year?
Yeah.
That they had to change the offense. They never changed it back.
I think they got real nervous that Mitch was too mobile or something, and they started to compromise.
I know originally they did it to literally protect. He had a harness. They did it to protect him so that he wouldn't get hit as much. But then they never seemed to go back to the shit that worked.
Maybe that's what
it was that year or the other year, but it made sense at the time why they did it. But then they were like, "Oh no, we don't run that anymore." It's like, why? It was the only shit that worked. All right, so great coaches in Broncos history. After Lou Saban, there was the great Jerry Smith, who appears to be an interim coach. Lou must have got canned.
The interim coach reference.
Yeah, interim coach. Every team's had one except the Bears.
And then Red Miller.
And then John Ralston, who isn't he like a pollster? Ralston reports? Probably that's the same guy.
Could have been.
Here's a guy that had success. Red Miller.
Yeah.
Won an AFC championship. That was the
guy
Super Bowl, right?
That's right. And if you look, the Broncos, a charter AFL franchise, had never tasted the postseason until that Super Bowl year. That was the Orange Crush with Randy Gradishar. I only remember Red Miller for this, when the USFL reference coming, when the Blitz played what I think it was the Denver Gold in like a rain-soaked Soldier Field. Red Miller was the coach, and I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was the guy apparently that had led the Broncos to that '77 Super Bowl. But I got to see Red Miller on my TV, leading a late victory over George Allen in the Blitz.
So, Red Miller was 40-22 at a .645 winning percentage, won 2 playoff games. Then when Red left, they got Dan Reeves, who is the
winningest.
No.
Or Shanahan might be the winningest.
Yeah, Reeves won 110 games in 12 seasons.
Is there? I didn't know
him
he went two
years
years before Elway, and got Herb stomped in all 3 of them.
3 and 4 years. It was almost. It was 1 short from the Marv Levy.
He almost pulled a full Levy or a Bud Grant.
He was coach of the year twice. Yep. Do you remember who was in between Dan Reeves and Mike Shanahan? He was coach there for 2 seasons.
Yes. Bump Phillips' kid, right?
Wade. And Wade was 500, 16-16. Went to 1 playoff game and lost it. So then they have the controversy where the Raiders had fired Shanahan.
After the '88 season. Shanahan was an up-and-coming protege of who? Bill Walsh?
Yes.
I think.
So the Raiders had fired him, but they claimed they could keep him from...
Al Davis.
They claimed he could keep him from coaching other players. He was an offensive coordinator somewhere, maybe the Niners. Is that right?
He had sort of he went to I think
he had to sue Al for his money.
It was ugly.
And then Al got super pissed because he took the Broncos job, so he's back in the AFC West, and Al gets
great
all
blood
mad.
feud. Yeah.
And old with his one lazy eye. I think it's a glass eye. It's weird.
I do. It's weird. He grew up in Franklin Park. He's also a Chicago guy. One of the 3 NFL coaches that graduated from Eastern Illinois University, Mike Shanahan was.
Along with the guy the Bears are going to see this Sunday.
Sean Payton. You bring it full circle.
Former Bear. When anytime he acts tough about his players, it's like, you were a fucking scab. If I was one of your players and you told me I can't wear a bucket hat or I can't wear sunglasses on the sidelines, I'd be like, yeah, remember when you crossed the picket line, Shawnee? Shut up. Take your weird botch facelift and shut up, because you're basically John Fox now. You've taken this job and you just did it for the cash, and we suck. And it's we saw what happened. Yeah. Foxy ruined the Bears. You're going to ruin the Broncos.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Shanahan goes 138-86, goes to 13 playoff games, wins 8 of them, including 2 Super Bowls, including one that warmed all of our hearts with their shocking upset of the Packers.
Even though it put an end to the 13-year streak to the NFC it had at home Super Bowl.
For those fuckers to lose the Super Bowl.
Sure.
So anyway, the Bolins finally get tired of him, and they hire an up-and-coming offensive genius off of the New England Patriots staff, who comes in and takes one look at Jay and goes, "Fuck this dude. Let's trade him." Yeah. Let's trade him, and then we'll draft Tim Tebow.
They've had very few coaches, so they had Reeves, a hiccup with Phillips, and then Shanahan goes right to McDaniels, huh? Okay.
From Dan Reeves started in 81, and Shanahan, they had 3 coaches from 81 to 2008.
That's pretty impressive.
27 years.
Okay.
Coaches.
And Josh McDaniels started to.
They've been rolling through them since, though. Oh.
Yeah.
They've been catching up.
Sure.
So McDaniels comes in, and he's there for a year and change.
He went 4-0 in his first year with Kyle Orton as his quarterback, I believe.
And he was all excited. Orton was running the offense the way he wanted. Jay wouldn't run it that way. This is great. Orton gets hurt, and he's got to go to Tebow, right?
Yep.
And then he realized, this shit's no fun. So after his 4-0 start, he went 7-17. Gets canned. Got to have an interim coach, because we're sending Josh home with 4 games to go. And there's no way you'll know who this is. Eric Studsville.
Nope. Nope. Don't remember the name as a player.
Got to go out. It's winning time. We got to find ourselves a proven winner, and they got Foxy. He coached the Panthers to the Super Bowl, and Foxy won a lot of games. In fact, by winning percentage, he's the winningest coach in Broncos history. A history where they had gone to 5 Super Bowls before him. He went to 1, got blown out. crushed in
Carolina,
New York, right?
yep.
By the Seahawks?
No, he lost to Tom Brady in the Janet Jackson Super Bowl. That was 2003 when Jake
I'm talking about when he was with the Broncos.
I apologize.
And they got
absolutely
destroyed. And that was the game in the
humiliated
Meadowlands, right? Where everybody's worried about the weather. It ended up being like 40 degrees. It was fine.
The very first snap went over Manning's head, and it was just all downhill from there. You're right.
Yeah, but Foxy was 46-18. Went to 7 playoff games, won 3 of them, including an AFC championship. And they said, "We can't win a Super Bowl with you." And he's like, "Fuck you."
He got 1 year. He got 1 year after that Super Bowl, I believe, right? So yeah,
2 maybe.
The Super Bowl was in 2015, I think.
They won the AFC championship in 2013, which I think is the 2012 season. So he coached 2 years after that, and they were good. They went to the playoffs, I think, both times. He gets whacked.
Yeah.
He's pissed. Elway hires his his old roommate, a former offensive coordinator, Gary Kubiak, and Fox is like, "Fuck, it's not going to work." And then the first year, they win the Super Bowl with Gary Kubiak, with Payton useless. Like by mid-season, his neck was back to hanging off.
Oh yeah, that was all defense.
He threw one good pass in the Super Bowl. It was still a wobbly thing, but the defense was great. So the irony of it is they hire the offensive coach, and the defense finally wins the Super Bowl for him.
That's right.
So Kubiak, his brain starts to explode on the sidelines. He has to leave a game with an aneurysm or whatever, and he does finish the second season, but then he retires. But then he comes back as an offensive consultant for the Vikings. He might still be there. I don't know, but he's not. Yep. He got offered another head coaching job. I don't remember where, and he's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Yep. Unlike Jerry Kill, who keeps coming back,
right?
And had to sue Minnesota so he could coach at New Mexico State, I think is where it is now.
He's like, if I want to violently convulse on the sideline,
I want to freak my players out by flopping around on the ground during a game. It's like, Jerry, come on. You seem like an awesome dude.
He does, actually.
So he got the Northern job because he beat them when he was at Southern. And this year, Southern beat Northern again. So I'm just waiting for next year the Southern coach.
That's right. That's right.
So Kubiak leaves, and now do you remember who they hired in between Gary Kubiak and Vic Fangio? This guy has a Bears connection.
Jeez,
former longtime assistant coach under Lovey.
Assistant coach. He's the head coach of the Broncos.
Yep,
assistant coach
for 2 seasons.
Babbage.
Vance Joseph. Remember, he's the defensive backs coach.
Yeah.
11-21 got canned. Vic came in. Vic went 19-30. Got fired. So then last year they needed to hire a new coach. Vic's going to go because we're going after Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is not going to come play for Vic Fangio. But you know who we'll hire? We'll hire the offensive coordinator who actually never called any plays. So worked great for the Bears. So we're going to do it too. And so they hired Nathaniel Hackett, who in his first game or his second game, didn't the clock ran out before they could get the field goal team out to kick a field goal in Seattle, and they lost. And at some point they had to hire a consultant to be up in the booth to tell him, give him strategy advice, when to call timeouts and when to do stuff. And with 2 games to go, they said, all right, that's enough of that. And they fired him. And Jerry Rosberg was the coach. Another
interim coach. They've had 3 interim coaches. I'm jealous. Are you saying that, who's the guy you just mentioned that got replaced by Jerry Rosberg?
Nathaniel Hackett.
Nathaniel Hackett got Preston Gomez. He got fired before the end of his first season.
Yep.
Okay.
4-11, and they said, buddy, it's like a mercy firing. It's like, you're not coming back. You might as well just go now.
Yeah, take the money and run.
They lost. They missed out on Rodgers, but they got Russell Wilson, and then Hackett was in no position to actually handle Russell. Russell could do whatever he wanted because he's Russell Wilson, and Russell wanted to do a bunch of shit that Russell couldn't do. He wanted, he was tired of running. He was tired of rolling. He was going to become a pocket passer, and his offense was terrible. And so Payton came in and basically said, all right, fuck that. We're just going to start. We're going back. You're going to be on the move. And their offense is the reason we were talking about this on the football podcast. How can a team that gave up 70 points and lost by 50 last week be a favorite on the road against the Bears? And it's pretty obvious, right? If you take the 4 units, the Bears defense, terrible. The Broncos defense, terrible. The Bears offense, terrible. The only decent unit is the Broncos offense. And so if you're setting the line, you're like, well, if they're more likely to win, that's the reason that they're favorites. It's sad. But there's Sean Payton.
It's sad. All right.
Back, he can remind everybody, oh, yeah, we had a big game here. I remember I backed up Mike Hohensee on this field. It's very exciting. I get misty-eyed just coming in here. I lost an NFC Championship game here to Rex Grossman once.
Absolutely right. That hasn't happened very often. That's a great point, by the way. The aforementioned Rex.
Yeah. All right.
Up here, Sean Payton. I don't care if they're
Last
local.
thing here, let's take a look at their all-time leaders. They'll have good ones.
Well, we already got Shanahan as the coach. I'm going to assume Elway's the quarterback.
Yeah, the all-time passing leader.
And passing yards.
Holy shit. Is this more passing yards than the Bears? 51,475. Is any Bear pass for 51,000
It's more than double.
Yards? Is
Cutler's
it more?
23.
Did John Elway throw for more yards in his career than the Bears have thrown for in franchise history?
Well, I bet
it's close. No, it's not close.
It is more than double.
The fact you have to consider that's damning.
Wow.
Let me think. No.
I know. I'll just tell you, for listeners at home, if you're still listening, 23,000 and change is the Bears' woefully low bar set by Jay Cutler, so that's more than double. And in fact, Peyton Manning probably did better, but I'm sure there might be another Bronco or two. Although Elway was there for fucking ever. Craig Morton might have gotten more yards than Cutler. I don't know. Cutler with the Bronco. No, he was only there for 3 years.
So 23,000 yards is Cutler.
And 23 some change.
In his first 100 games as a quarterback in the NFL, so this was his first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. His seventh season. He wasn't a full-time starter until his second year.
Yeah,
John Elway threw for 21,195 yards. So he would have broken the Bears' all-time record about 3 games into his age 30 season. He played 8 more years after that.
Yeah. That's why he doubled their total. Never played for anyone else. So
Justin Jefferson, right? The Vikings wide receiver, who's been in the league for a minute, would be the Bears' all-time leading receiver already.
Already? Yeah, I thought I saw that. Yep. Well, DJ Moore with the Carolina. I believe it has eclipsed Johnny Morris already.
Yes, my fearless prediction of that by the end of the year, DJ Moore would be the Bears' all-time leading single-season receptions, yardage, and touchdown leader. Yeah, not off to a great start. I don't think it's going to happen. All-time leading rusher for the Broncos? It's not a lot of yards. It's a great player, but it's not a lot of yards. It's less than half of what Walter rushed for.
Would it be Terrell?
It is. Terrell Davis. 7,607 yards.
He had 2 or 3 meteoric white hot years, and then he was almost the first quarterback
in a 3. He basically his career. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's like Gale Sayers. Kind of.
He didn't play that long. He broke down right away.
He played 7 years in the NFL, but he really only played 4 seasons. In his first 4 years, he rushed for 6,413 of his 7,000 yards, including a 1,500-yard season and a 2,000-yard season. He was the Super Bowl MVP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was the NFL MVP. He was the Associated Press Player of the Year twice. He finished second for that another time. Finished second Rookie of the Year. But his last 3 years, he only played 16 games total over his last 3 years. He rushed for 701 yards in his last season, but he retired because of migraines. He had horrible migraines, and he's like, "Fuck it, I can't play with this." So he had to retire.
I just remember him being one of the earliest examples of how much a warhorse running back, if they break down, they don't break down, they just get worn out so quickly.
And he's one of the reasons why there are so many teams that just aren't going to give a second contract.
Yeah.
Right. You'll be great for 5 years, and then we'll replace you.
Which is brutal. A brutal way to look at it. Is he a Hall of Famer?
He is a Hall of Famer.
Just, very efficient. Very efficient 7 years then. Or 4 years, really, is what drives it.
Yeah, it's amazing how, Gale played more than he did. And Gale was younger when he retired. Or at least younger when he got voted in. I don't know how long it took Terrell. It doesn't say what year he
it probably took Terrell a little bit.
He's a Hall of Famer.
So I'm trying to think of receiver. Is it like Vance Johnson or somebody that Elway threw to? Ricky Nateel?
No, it's more recent. It's a guy who, I don't know if he played for Elway.
Oh,
he might have been a guy
Smith?
who bridged. Yeah. I don't think he played for Elway and Payton. Maybe he did. He played for a long time.
But he probably caught a lot of Brian Greasy passes.
Oh, I bet. I'm sure that's who he's going to thank at his Hall of Fame induction.
Is that who it is? Rod Smith,
It
right?
is.
That's interesting. Yeah.
He played with he won, but he was there for both Super Bowls. So he played for Elway, and he played all the way up until. No, he didn't play with Payton. He was done in 06.
He didn't. Done in 06.
11,389 yards. So more than twice as many as Johnny.
More than double. So their quarterback is more than double, and their receiver is more than double. We'll always have Walter, though. Very few franchises, outside of the Cowboys.
And their all-time
trump
leading
us on running
scorer.
back. Not Rick Carlos, not Jason Elam, not Matt Prater. Is it a kicker?
It is. It's Jason Elam. 1,786 points.
Well, I thought it could have also been that other guy you mentioned from the 70s, Stanley. Mike Stanley or something is his name. Or Rich, whatever.
I bet we could find
They have a really long career.
Career leader
They've
scorer.
had,
Let's see. How close?
Was it Mike Stanley?
Is Brandon McManus still there, or is he finally gone? I think he's still. What year is this? 2023. Elam was the leading scorer, and then second is Brandon McManus, who I think is no longer their kicker, and then Jim Turner was third.
Okay.
But Elam was there for 15 years. He's got He's got almost twice as many points as McManus, and more than twice as many as Turner. And then it's Matt Prater, Rich Carlos, David Treadwell, and then their leading non-kicker scorer is Rod Smith. Shannon Sharp is 11th.
I confused the
it's
guy.
Funny, Shannon Sharp.
All
those years, Shannon Sharp never came up in any of one of the greatest
That's
tight
true.
ends in history, and he didn't come. He never. The Bears obviously knew how to shut down.
That's why. It's funny. We went off on all kinds of tight end tangents. We didn't bring up Ben Coates this week, but we did last week. But tight end tangents and the Broncos. He must not have really done much against the Bears. When was Shannon Sharp? He was like from 98 to. Or 95, so he was probably in that 96 game that Flanigan fucked up. And then, remember, they went from 96 to 03 and they didn't play, oddly. So that's kind of Shannon Sharp's peak.
So how about this?
Like.
Here's an oddity for you. Last week, when the Broncos played the Dolphins in that now famous game where they lost 70-20,
Yep.
there were 3 Bronco head coaches coaching in the game. Sean Payton, current coach, is coaching for the Broncos. Vic Fangio is now the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. And Vance Joseph is the defensive coordinator for the Broncos. The guy who was their head coach for 2 years is now back with Sean Payton as the defensive coordinator.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's like Charlie is like Joey Amalfitano. Sure, I'll go back to coaching. Except he wasn't even the interim coach. He was a head coach.
Yeah, for 2 full seasons. 2 bad ones.
Almost like, almost Lou Boudreaux. Well, all right.
He was the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. How about this? He was the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins in 2016.
Both teams. Right.
Then he was the head coach in 17 and 18 for Denver. Then he went to Arizona for Arians, right? And he was the defensive coordinator all the way through. He was there for like 3 coaches.
I do find it funny that from 19.
And now he's the defensive coordinator of the Broncos. I guess he'd been gone for 6 years. So he's probably, fuck it, I can go. Hey, it's a check. I'll take it. Why not? None of my guys are still around.
I do enjoy the fact that I do find it interesting that Denver's had they went like a 28-year period with mostly 2 coaches aside from Wade, and then they aside from Wade Phillips, and they've since made up for it because a lot of coaches to have on one field there in Miami.
Here's what I want the Bears to do this year if they fire Eberflus. I want them, say they do it with like 8 games to go. I want them to go college of coaches. I want them to rotate through. I want them to have 8 interim coaches to catch up. You're the interim coach this week. Now this guy's interim coach, then this guy's interim coach, then this guy's interim coach. Everybody gets a turn. We'll catch
Develop
up.
a game
now
plan.
nobody can say we've never had an interim coach. And then in the offseason, they'll hire Bill Belichick. And they'll hire a guy who's already coached before, and then he'll coach there for 3 years and go, this sucks, and quit. That'll be great.
Or he'll just leave before the first press conference like he did for the Jets.
So I don't know if you know this. This we can wrap up on this. It has nothing to do with it. It had more to do with the game last week where Taylor Swift was there.
Happy to talk about that game. Yeah.
So I knew about this. They talked about it. On her big tour it was like a big deal for rich people or celebrities to talk about if they had gone to see Taylor Swift. And so at like the beginning of training camp, Belichick, because the writers knew, they said, "Hey, did you go to a Taylor Swift concert this year?" And he said, "Well, I did." His wife drug him along to see Taylor, and wherever they saw her. The weather was terrible. It poured the whole time. Now, Bill and the wife are up in a box; they're not getting poured on. But this is perfect Bill Belichick, right? So he's talking about the concert, and he is going on and on about her, and he says, "What really amazed me is the weather was terrible, and it did not affect her performance. It didn't affect the show." He said, "If you didn't know it was raining, we knew because we were there, you would never know it was raining." He goes, "She's the ultimate professional. She gave the same high-quality concert in terrible weather." So he clearly, he was super impressed by this. He's going on and on about Taylor Swift, about she's like the do your job thing. He's like, she's out there, everybody paid the same amount as if it wasn't raining, and she was out there and she gave the same show that she would have given. Mm-hmm. So then this last week, he got asked about her dating Travis Kelce. And Bill goes, "Well, he's a great player, probably a Hall of Famer, one of the best tight ends of all time, but I'd have to say that she's his greatest catch."
I heard that. Belichick.
I just love the fact that Belichick was he nerded out about, not about her songs or her music or anything, but just to him, the thing he was super impressed by was that's what he wants his players to do. The elements did not affect her because these people are here to see me. I have to perform, and so he's he thinks she's great now because
he is so not full of shit, honestly. He just sees it from that lens. He from that perspective, he's able to cut through all the bullshit.
I don't know if you've seen it, but there is. I should find it and put it on the post. There is I think it's 7 or 8 minutes long. He got asked a question about the long snapper, about the Patriots long snapper, and he gave an 8-minute answer where he basically talked about the history of when long snapper became a specialist position, and
in the early 70s,
and why it is, and why it's so important to have one that is, dependable and consistent, and how it used to be harder than it was because now you can't hit the snapper, but you used to be able to, and about why he got into every nerdy little detail about how it's changed,
the evolution,
and that's the kind of shit he loves. He still looks, you could see the video of it, he still looks completely annoyed to be answering the question, but you could tell by the way he's answering that he's not.
His wheels are turning. He's not giving a canned answer. All right, I'll put my brain in motion to actually give you a thoughtful answer.
But I think the Patriot media, every once in a while, take turns. And it's all right, it's time to throw Bill a bone. We're going to let him, somebody ask the question about some obscure, or not obscure, but some overlooked aspect of the game. And if he's in the mood today, he's going to go off on this long tangent, and then he's going to be as happy with us as he's ever going to get for a while. Because that's the stuff he likes. He hates the shit about who's going to be quarterback next week and who's going to do this.
That's right.
But he loves the the schematic stuff. Well,
got my Broncos, Phil.
See, this is another one where people, instead of watching the game, actually you can watch the game, but just don't turn the sound down. You're not going to miss anything. Listen to the podcast. It's 2 hours.
It's almost as long as the game, and it would be much more enjoyable for you, I guarantee.
All right.
We'll see.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Andy.
Many of us have herpes.